owned by a British national in Watamu, Kilifi County. Joyce Musimbi and her two children were on holiday strolling along the beach on April 20th when the incident happened. The victim's mother claims that a week after the incident happened, no statement has been recorded and the suspect, Steve Dalton, has since been released on a 10,000 shillings police bond. She claims there was no help from the suspect, forcing a witness to step in. And finally, the Department of Homeland Security processed more than 20,000 Ukrainians at the US-Mexico border and granted them humanitarian parole since March 11th, when officials began exempting them on a case-by-case basis following Russia's invasion, according to a newly filed court declaration. Blas Nunes-Neto, a top Homeland Security official, outlined the Biden administration's plan for an influx of migrants at the US-Mexico border when a public health authority known as Title 42 lifts in a court filing following a federal judge's intent to temporarily block the wind down. DHS Nunes-Neto said, "Will be significantly curtailing those exceptions given the launch of Uniting for Ukraine, a streamlined process for Ukrainians seeking to go to the United States." This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Assetto. Good morning.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on SpiceFM.
I like listening to you guys. You're the default radio station in my car in the morning. Even the children listen to you guys.
I agree Parliament has failed this country, and I will say it again. We have not done what we should have done.
We know in this country, the Kenya prison sector is one of the most underfunded sector.
The way it is being done and the way we're calling it Huduma number them Msema Kweli is because all records will be there. You know, there are people who are now billionaires with no history as to how they got all these assets.
Yes. Anything that the president does that is not in accord with the constitution is an illegal act. You know, he shouldn't be doing it and should be sitting here and trying to sort of guise it up.
I totally believe live transmission of results and allowing Kenyans to be able to view all these results. I believe that it will be impossible to steal elections.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
On a rainy Thursday morning, let's look at what Nairobi is looking like in terms of traffic, and it's looking like it's already picking up on Uhuru Highway today, trying to get into the city centre. And it's going to take a while to get out of this one. And we're seeing that it's going to clog up later on as well. Already on Mombasa Road as well, there is some traffic going out to the city. It looks like it's going to clog up quite significantly this morning, but we're going to have to wait to see. We know that certain parts of that construction makes it difficult for water to move. And with the rain coming down, that means folks are going to go a lot slower. On the Eastern Bypass this morning, also some traffic in and outbound. And we're going out towards Mwai, and that might cause some problems as well. Apart from that, it's lean pickings this morning, and it looks like everybody else is just waking up. Langata Road is starting to pile up here and there. Coming out of Western, some action and drama as well, but nothing too disturbing right now. How about we wait to see, look what happens in about 30 minutes. Let's circle back and see what it looks like. Talk to us this morning on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127. Let's keep things moving this Thursday.
Spice FM, Malindi. This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Biggest conversation. Thursday, first Friday, actually. No, it's not just first Friday. This is the Friday of the month.
The Friday.
This is the Friday. From this point on, next time, May. Okoh, like 2 weeks from today. Why? How you doing?
Nani Mimi?
Yeah.
Me, I'm fine, thank you.
Uko sawa?
Yes, please.
Kabisa?
Yes, please.
You're happy this closing day?
Yeah, where are the snacks and soda?
Ndio. I'm saying, so Kenya is going on half term.
On half term. Kenya is going on half term. My goodness.
A long one. City Muga. How you doing?
Very well, thank you.
You've tactfully taken your half term this week already. City is just checking in.
And then he
Comes
says,
in
we're going
like,
again.
You know, City has been on half term since Monday.
What do you expect when fuel prices keep rising?
And Putin keeps bombing Ukraine.
What do you expect?
And then when he comes back, you know, mafuta ya nyumba imeisha.
Wacha hivyo. Mafuta ya kupika.
Ndio. Bekaa kwa nyumba
Umekula. Mafuta yameisha, wacha nirudi job.
We call it strategic.
Unaweza kupewa boiro. Hapana.
Inaanza na maji boiro.
How you doing though, City?
I'm very well, thank you.
It's raining.
Bwana.
It's raining, but it's cold.
It's nice.
Yes.
And the old man is snoring. Remember those things we used to learn and sing when we were in first grade, nursery school, those places.
City remembers.
Eric, unasikia mtego? Do you remember when we were in nursery school? Yes. You and I were in nursery school together. I'm not going along that route.
I remember my nursery school. It was called Miss Setia School. It was run by the loveliest of Asian ladies.
Yeah. I didn't go
Your
to
school was called Miss Setia School.
No.
She named it after herself.
But I didn't.
My nursery school.
I didn't go to nursery school.
You didn't?
No.
Oh, okay.
I just went to school.
I went to nursery school, then I went to. You know.
By the way, I started school in a place called Katolo. The school was called Yogo. Still exists.
Yogo School in Katolo.
Primary school.
Yogo Primary School.
Yes. And we used to walk. There were those who went to do in the morning session, and then you take turns. Us used to go in the afternoon session. Yes. And you went to school barefooted.
That practice is still in Nigeria, not the barefooted part.
No.
But
the
going in the morning
and
then the half day, and then there are those who went for afternoon session.
In Kenya.
And if you came early enough, there was like a bench sort of like thing where you could sit on.
You wait.
Those who came later,
bench.
yes, and even classrooms you shared. There are those who entered the classroom. That I think, if I remember correctly, just 2 classrooms. Others learned under a tree, and there were some log-like things that you sat on. Others sat on the ground.
Oh yeah.
By the way,
see, that's normal.
That's the point.
But it was fun, isn't it?
Of course, it was fun. I hear people talking about this and saying, "Oh, they suffered." We didn't suffer.
After all, you didn't come to this life.
No, that's how people went to school, barefooted. And part of the reason was there are teachers who also came to school to teach you barefooted. So you, even if you had a pair of shoes or something that could be referred to as a shoe,
you leave it at home.
Precisely. Barefooted.
You leave it at home.
It was the norm.
It's true. It's true.
Welcome to the show, CG.
Thank you very much.
Good to have you back.
Eric, how are you this morning?
I'm very well, thank you.
That's good.
Like you said, it's raining.
Indeed.
It's cold. Cold nights, cold days.
It is cold.
You know? You love this weather, though.
I do.
So
I must say.
So. Haya. Welcome to the show, everybody. Today, being closing day, we'll have various conversations and
For half time.
for halftime. You guys are all going on halftime. They'll be back, I don't know when. Lakini sisi sababu tulipewa kazi ya kuchunga nini? Tutakuwa tu hapa.
Kufunga
tu hapa.
kuchunga stesheni.
Sisi tutakuwa tu hapa. Tell us about COVID, Yandu.
Okay, so 511 million. That's where the world is right now with COVID cases. If this thing can agree, there it is. 536,014. Those are the numbers the world is looking at. Let's look at what's going on in Kenya. 11 new cases, positivity rate of 0.5%. This is from a sample size of 2,028. Cumulative tests that have been done in the country so far, interestingly enough, 3,590,760. I saw an interesting statistic
You saw
yesterday, and it was saying that about 60% of these tests that have been done were for the purposes of procedure, right? Whether it was travel procedure or an obligatory test that you had to do in order to, pass something. So it was not that people were sick or presenting themselves so, it was that they needed the results in order for them to do something else. So I thought that was interesting. Let's look also what's happening around the world. Of course, China still takes center stage with the talks. Shares fall on concerns of further China lockdowns is one of the headies that we'll see today. Shares in the US and Asia have fallen on fears about the impact of lockdowns in China on a global economic growth. Tuesday, Nasdaq Composite Index closed at its lowest level since late 2020. Tesla was a big faller with more than $125 billion wiped off its market value as boss Elon Musk moves ahead with its takeover of Twitter. Concerns about earning reports from some of the world's biggest technology firms also weighed in on markets. And for some reason, this is all leaning on lockdowns in China. Russia will cut gas supplies to Poland and Bulgaria, and this also added to the negative sentiment. And they're saying, well, okay, this is nice. At the same time, economic financial hub of Shanghai is shut down, and we cannot continue with business. And then we're seeing that shares are falling because of this negative feeling that things could actually get worse. Authorities in Beijing are trying to stamp out a COVID-19 outbreak and avoid a repeat of the citywide restrictions that have kept Shanghai in lockdown for a month now. They had raised concerns about the prospects for growth in the world's second largest economy and the potential knock-on effect globally. We see things happening in Japan. We see things happening in New York. And we also see things happening in Shanghai, of course. The extended lockdown in other parts of the country has damaged economic activity and customer sentiment. This is according to Alvin Tan, who's the head of the Asia FX strategy, capital markets. Beijing contributes about 3.5% of China's GDP. Shanghai contributes about 4%. It would be a massive blow to the overall economy if these two cities were to be locked down at the same time.
Xi Jinping knows this.
He does.
And then he says, shut down.
He knows this and he says shut down anyway. Because if he's
What is he doing?
Because people would think that if he was thinking ahead or thinking forward, knowing full well that you hold about 10% of an economy's strength in two cities, are you silly to say shut it down anyway? Or are you being careful and saying the threat of COVID on the economy is far worse than this initial action of shutting down and holding the economy at freezing for a short period of time?
No, are you testing your own resilience and showing the world that, can shut it down?
And will still survive? Or are you trying to see how powerful you really are? Because look at what's happening already. Everybody in all the corners is already complaining.
Everybody is catching the cold. 18 after 6, we're live streaming the show on YouTube and Facebook. And I can see some people are already online. Go there onto Facebook or YouTube and post a comment, say hello, tell us where you're listening from. After we take a look at the weather forecast, we will be saying hello back at you.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. Brought to you by Colgate.
SpiceFM.
It's getting hot in here. Oh, everybody steals. It's better a thief who brings something small back. And I say to myself, there's no better thief. A thief is a thief, period.
All those bribes, how much they are getting per year, how much inconvenience they are causing, as much as you call it a small case, it's worth it to be convicted.
The truth is, we are a tribal nation. Because if we were not tribal, and I want to go back to this, you cannot continue walking around with a mug which is clean outside and it's rotten inside.
We have become a fuliza country. We have mortgaged our country because of debt.
You've got one chef working and the assistant chef wakati anatakana koroge unga nini hayuko.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Raining in Nairobi at 17. We'll see highs of 21 and lows of 15 today. At 15, it's mostly cloudy in Nakuru. 22 will be the high and lows of 15. It's also raining in Nyeri at 14, highs of 22. And we'll see lows of 13 in Eldoret, where it's coming down as well in sheets. And we'll see highs of 22. Rain in Mombasa also this morning, 24, highs of 31. And Malindi's woken up to rain as well. Probably slept to it at 26, highs of 31 and lows of 26. Mostly cloudy conditions. The rain beckons in Kisumu at 19, highs of 26. And we'll see highs of 25 in Kakamega, where it's currently clear at 15. It's a rainy morning in Kampala at 20, highs of 24 and lows of 19. And it's raining as well in Dar es Salaam at 24. 29 will be the high and lows of 24. Mostly cloudy conditions at 10 in Johannesburg. 19 will be the high. We'll see lows of 9. And clear conditions in Lagos this morning at 25. 31 will be the high with lows of 24. The rain has begun in Kinshasa at 24, highs of 32 and lows of 23. Out in Beijing, going into Thursday afternoon, is partly sunny at 12, highs of 16 and lows of 7. And we've got clear conditions in Paris at 8, highs of 22 and lows of 8. It's also clear in London at 8. We'll see lows of 6. It'll go to highs of 16. And still Wednesday night in New York, it's cloudy. Coming into Thursday, we'll see highs of 13 and lows of 4.
Spice FM. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
21 minutes after 6.
Yeah, it's William Munga.
Munga.
This one is Munga.
Okay.
He's saying good morning, and interestingly, he's in Nairobi, and he says, say hi to Sweetie Muga. See, it's not just me. William Munga says to say hello to Sweetie Muga.
You have an opportunity to set this gentleman straight and assist him. It is not Sweetie.
But you are.
It is CT.
Okay, let's just do it once and for all. CT Muga. It is the initials C for Charles, T for Timothy, then Muga. But he goes by CT Muga. Got it? Got it. Eddie Odor is in Dunga
So
Beach.
if William wants to call you Sweetie, what's the problem?
The problem was I thought he probably didn't know.
No, he gets it. He put a smiley face and a winky eye over there. So he's just, playing around this morning.
Come on, Sweetie.
Come on, Sweetie. Dunga Beach.
Okay.
What was the other place I said I like yesterday?
Dunga Beach.
No, there was something else.
Okay,
Kendu Bay.
Kendu Bay. Yeah.
Nice to have Muga back. I presume he's back with a bag of proverbs. Wish all Spice-nians. Hey, happy half-term holiday indeed. Andrew, torrential rains in Lavington. Electricity is holding. This is a good thing. Hang tight. Listening intently. Millicent Yewa says, good morning. My favorite trio on a chilly Thursday morning. Looking for an authentic conversation. And Msijali will keep you company till the end of half-term. Because tunawapenda sana. Fantastic. Thank you so much. Davy Rary, good morning. Welcome back, CT. Hope you heard Ndu's proverb yesterday. Hey, CT, did you hear? County 014 is listening. All right. George Ogola is listening. Good morning to you. Tuning from Malaba. Mwange Joroge says that Mombasa is raining cats and dogs. Must be an interesting morning. Tuned in from Mombasa is where Rob Mbogo is. And John Opudo says, good morning, tuned in from Kisumu. Good morning, tuned in from Jeddah in Saudi Arabia. That's where Le Pigeon Voyageur. Hey, where? Top one, good morning, tuned in from...
What does that mean?
It's a traveling pigeon.
Traveling pigeon.
Yeah.
Okay.
Collins is tuned in from Komarok this morning. Everybody online, we see you. Thanks for joining us. Karibuni sana.
Welcome, everybody. It's closing day. CT. Proverb.
Right. Last proverb from Togo. This one, even I thought it was interesting. When all men say you are a dog, it is time to bark.
Don't fight popular opinion.
When everybody says you are sweetie Muga.
Yes.
What's the problem?
So I should just bark, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just sit down and assume the position. Keep doing the thing.
And bark. All right. Point taken.
Yes.
Point well made.
When all men say you're a dog,
yes,
it is time to bark. Don't argue. They can see.
Be knowing.
Be knowing. Wewe.
I was waiting.
Okay. Ni sawa.
Though in reality, wewe ni jibwa.
What?
Wewe ni jibwa.
What are those?
Jibwa is what?
It's a dog.
And umbwa is what?
Umbwa is a Luo dog.
Umbwa.
Okay.
www.standardmedia.co.ke. Are you a part of our online community? Please just go www.standardmedia.co.ke. They'll ask you to to just create an account. Create an account and you'll be able to access all this premium content. For example, the woes of ex-Kibaki bodyguard David Wambogo survived a crash with Kibaki, only for the GSU to fire the injured officer. You want to read that story? Please go to the online platform and you'll have access to it. What's in the papers, Ndu?
Okay, a really disturbing story about a young boy called Logan Mwangi. And like I said, it's disturbing, so brace yourselves. A Kenyan boy was brutally killed by his stepfather and mother, according to a UK court ruling. So we'll give you the background to this story. Logan Mwangi endured horrific torture at the hands of his mother's new and racist lover that lasted 2 years. It's the tale of racism as the UK court rules on boy with Kenyan roots killing. A boy with Kenyan roots. This story is, reported by Vincent Achuka, whose body was found floating in a river in Bridgend, United Kingdom, 2 years ago, was murdered by his mother and stepfather, a British court has ruled. The court found that the body of Logan Mwangi, whose Kenyan father Benjamin Mwangi works as a bookmaker in the UK, had horrific injuries, when it was retrieved from the Ogmore River at the end of July 2021. The body had 56 external cuts and bruises, as well as internal injuries, and the prosecutors likened to the case of someone who had suffered a high-speed road accident. The minor had reportedly been brutalized and tortured for months by people who were supposed to take care of him. When his body was examined, it was bruised, grazed, and scratched from head to toe. He suffered damage to his brain, liver, and stomach. His death would have been slow and painful, according to The Guardian. Logan's biological mother, Angad Williamson, her current husband, John Cole, a man described by British media as harboring a deep hatred of the boy due to his African roots, and a 14-year-old boy who lived with them, have all been found guilty of murdering the young boy. Cole hated Logan's similarity in looks to his natural father, who is of Kenyan heritage. Racism may have played a part in his attitude towards Logan. Mr. Mwangi met Miss Williamson through mutual friends in 2010 when she was working as a warehouse manager in Essex, southeast London. A relationship began in 2014 and led to Logan's birth in 2016. I was present when Logan was born, and it was the happiest time of my life. I stayed with Claire, Miss Williamson's mother, for a few weeks, but I would clash quite a lot with Claire and did not think it was good for anyone, especially Logan, since I moved back to Bretton Wood. During the period, I was in regular contact with Angad, who is Logan's mother, who would call me and send me pictures of Logan. He was the cutest little boy. We were back and forth visiting each other. This is what Mr. Mwangi witnessed to. Things took a turn for the worse after Miss Williamson met Cole, 40, who 3 women who had relationships before had described to the court as an overly controlling, domineering, violent, and uneasy person. Okoh had a criminal record for burglary, assault, resisting arrest, possession of bang, and preventing the court of justice. He had long-standing racist beliefs which could have been relevant to his motives in the attack on Logan, and even stopped him from seeing his real father and grandmother. Shortly after starting a relationship with Cole, Williamson called Mr. Mwangi and informed him that she would not be able to continue speaking with him, as her new partner did not think it was normal for them to still speak to each other. Mwangi would henceforth only speak to Logan via video call on weekends when the boy was staying with his grandmother. In 2019, the court heard that Logan's suffering started sometime in 2019 when his mother and stepfather decided to lock him up in a dark bedroom, denying him food and forcing him to only eat cereal and water for supper. British media have criticised the UK's government social services department for failing to rescue Logan, even if it came apparent that the 5-year-old was being brutalised. It was heard that the boy had on several occasions come to school with unexplained injuries. The brutality made Logan start stammering, wetting himself and frequently and causing physical harm to himself, something his teachers reported to social workers, but no action was taken. So the story goes on, of course. There's many harrowing details that are given here, but at the end of the day, they find his body floating on the river.
So the father is the one who's Mwangi.
Mwangi is the
of
father.
Kenyan origin.
Yes.
The mother is British.
Yes.
She gets married to this thug.
She
who's
gets
also
married to
British.
this thug after she's had Logan with Mwangi.
And how old was Mwangi when he died?
He's 5.
5.
Logan Mwangi was 5. He was born in 2016. About to turn 6 this year.
Hey. But he died. Was it 2 years
So he
ago?
would have turned 6 this year, but he died 2 years ago. So at that time, he was 3.
It is, many things and many angles, and I like the way the British media has said, okay, so, but where was the social services? Where were they? I mean, this was reported to you. What did you do?
What did you do? This boy showed up in school with... This is a 3-year-old boy showing up in school with these injuries. There must have been questions that were asked in terms of what's going on here. A boy who who previously was all right and then starts to stammer and then causing physical injury to himself. Absolutely, there's something going on.
You know, those services in the UK are under spotlight. On page 54 of the Standard, there's a story of 5 officers from the London Metropolitan Police who are facing gross misconduct hearing over the stop and search of 2 black athletes. The 2 athletes, there's Bianca Williams and her partner Ricardo Dos Santos. They're both professional sprinters who have won awards, gold medals and the like.
For Team GB.
Yes. For Team GB. They were traveling with the 3-month-old baby in the car. They were stopped, handcuffed, and searched for weapons and drugs. Nothing was found. So, the matter, was brought before the Independent Office of Police Conduct, which handles complaints against police in England and Wales, and said the 5 officers involved in the stopping will face a disciplinary panel that will decide whether allegations that they breached professional standards are proven.
What? Okay.
One of the things, though, I remember the other day when we were talking about the election in France, and we were talking about Macron and Le Pen. You see, the thing that stands out for me, and as you and do correctly put it, there are trends we see in the Western Hemisphere. There are things we see in Europe, the things we see in the US. Racism masquerading as nationalism. People present cases and say, we want a bigger France, we want a bigger this. And yet, it's actually racism that they're talking about, because they're saying this race of ours has been diluted by the incursion of these other people of a darker complexion. And we don't want them. Now, that isn't nationalism, that's racism.
Indeed. But isn't this exactly what this young man's stepfather said? And then later on, It would translate into the way in which he saw him because of his color. And one of the terrible things that he said was, the only thing this boy understands is pain. This is a 3.5-year-old boy.
Oh, yeah. It's a sad story.
Yeah.
27 minutes to 7. Let's take this quick break, see how the roads are looking like at this point, and then we look at other newspaper headlines. Good morning.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. Brought to you by Colgate. Standard Group's Farm Kenya initiative is the umbrella entity for all agriculture-related channels, activities and investments. The media platforms under the Farm Kenya initiative include the Smart Harvest Weekly Pullout in the Saturday Standard, KTN Farmers TV, a 24-hour agribusiness TV station, Maisha Kilimo, a weekly agriculture show on Radio Maisha, AgriTalk on SpiceFM's morning show The Situation Room, and Grind na Agribiz on Vibes Radio morning show Morning Vibes. Find us online at www.farmers.co.ke, an integrated website that creates and aggregates agri-content, hosts a digital marketplace, and wide range of agri-data. Other platforms include specialized events such as the annual Mkulima Expo, quarterly Farmers Kenya Breakfast, and dedicated social media platforms at Farm Kenya 254. Farm Kenya, working to secure your growth.
This Ramadan period, enjoy the greatest and best discounts from Quickmart Supermarket. Access variety of goods under one roof at Quickmart Supermarket this Ramadan. Get 50% discount on selected items and purchase selected items at 50 bob only at all Quickmart branches. We have 50 golds and shopping vouchers worth 5,000 Kenya shillings for our daily and weekly winners across all our branches countrywide. Simply shop with 1,500 Kenya shillings and above at any Quickmart branch and you can be a winner. Quickmart, fresh and easy. This promotion is certified by Betting Control and Licensing Board. BCLB number.
Okay, so the rain is coming down and that's going to slow things down considerably because folks are trying to get out while the rain is coming down. So it might be an interesting collision of efforts. The Southern Bypass this morning, for the first time in a very long time, has quite some traffic as you're trying to approach Langata Road. Langata Road itself, at a few minutes after 6:30, is already jam-packed, bumper to bumper, all the way to the T-Mall roundabout. So we have Raila Odinga Way as an escape route. There's an option for you. Get out towards Ngong Road and into the city that way. It's going to be longer, but it's going to be much quicker than sticking on Langata Road. So there's an option for you to use. Jogo Road, really packed. Getting onto Landis, out towards Kamkunji. Haile Selassie Avenue, already doing that business this morning in the CBD. Quite the jam-packed action. The Thika Superhighway, wowee. Traffic from the drive-in to the Pangani underpass is not taking any prisoners. Well, in this case it is because it's bumper to bumper. Kiambu Road, back to back in both directions. I don't know how many lanes we're at now. So it looks like this closing day is not a joke because everybody wants to get out and do the thing before, the day ends. We're looking at traffic also on Limuru Road, inbound just for now, likely to be outbound as well in a short while. How about we take a look in half an hour when we're in traffic hour proper and see what happens? Let's talk. SpiceFM, KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
Spice FM, Malindi. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings.
23 minutes to
94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
The national exams that are coming up. Okay? And registration for 3 national exams set for November and December this year have begun. The Kenya National Examinations Council, KNEC, Chief Executive David Njegere said listing of grade 6, standard 8 and form 4 candidates will continue until the 14th of May. So you have 3 weeks. to make sure that children are registered for the assessment and exams, which are set to be administered later this year. Grade 6 learners are being registered for the Kenya Primary School Education Assessment, KPSEA. Kenya Primary School Education Assessment. Better start getting used to that because it's replacing KCPE. Kenya Primary School Education Assessment, KPSEA. And Standard 8s are enrolling for KCPE, of course. Form 4s are enrolling for KCSE. Njengere says registration for the exams is free. Basic Education Principal Secretary Julius Juan warned schools against asking candidates for exam fees. Next said only learners required to pay for the exams are those repeating KCPE or KCSE, non-Kenyans, private candidates registering in the sub-county private exam centers, and candidates in prisons. Why should prison candidates pay?
I wonder.
And who's paying for them?
Who will pay for them? The state?
So see, then it's free.
If the state is paying?
Yeah.
But they have to pay otherwise. Either way.
You're in prison, so
are you suggesting, for instance, that if I'm in prison, I can't renew my driving license?
Well, the assumption would be that you're renewing your driver's license so that you can drive.
If I want to renew it, then I have to pay.
Yes, no.
So, Magoha said that schools should capture name of candidates correctly as per the birth certificate. This information should also include gender, the year of birth, citizenship, and subjects entered. Transfer of candidates once registration is completed will not be done, but special cases related to illness and insecurity will be handled appropriately once it's brought to the attention of KNEC. Registration of any other persons will be treated as an exam malpractice and attracts sanctions against an exam center. So this is that period where, it just happens like clockwork. And we are talking about 3 million registrations that are going to be taking place between now and the end of the 3 weeks.
Yep.
Yeah, for information's sake.
Now you know.
Now you know.
Okay. Still with education matters, the president is asking that, help learners recover from COVID losses. And this is interesting that he made this statement. President Uhuru Kenyatta yesterday asked the Commonwealth education ministers to focus on helping students recover the learning losses experienced during the COVID-19 pandemic. He also urged countries to strengthen measures of increasing retention levels and school completion, particularly for girls and students from the poorest households. He also emphasized the need to scale up innovations that emerged during the pandemic. So there were many people who were, inventing this, that, or the other, and said, you know what, those are the things now we need to throw our support behind. He was, this was read on his behalf by Interior Cabinet Secretary Dr. Fred Matiang'i. The president said a variety of approaches will be needed to ameliorate the extent of learning losses in our countries. When Kenyan schools reopened in January 2021, the government conducted school re-entry learning assessments for students in primary education to inform re-entry behavior and learning recovery strategies. It was found during this time that after having been out of school for 9 to 10 months, of course, that there was content loss in terms of, knowledge and understanding. That, naturally, you've been out of school, you're not going through the normal learning process, you would have lost something. And unfortunately, when we then went back to school, it was not a recap or a revision of what you had done before. It was now, boom, let's just kick off from where we left off. Let's just move on because we don't have time. We're still in the throes of that now because we're trying to complete a year in the next 7 months, 8 months. All right?
Yeah.
So what the president is saying, maybe we should also focus on some of this revision and getting back what we actually lost. And there were many things that came up during that time when students were at home that would actually be very, very good things in terms of innovation. How about even as we have these conversations as Commonwealth countries in terms of where support is being thrown, can we throw support then behind some of these innovations as well? He also calls for a linkage between education and the workplace. And, it's a conversation we've also had saying, you know what, you've sent these children to school. Are we having conversations between education and employment? Who do you need? What skills do you need? Can we then tailor learning towards what the market is demanding. Otherwise, we're sending folks to school and then they're coming out and they don't have the skills that we need in the job market. Yep.
You know, this job market that we speak of, it usually hinges on the outlook from a national perspective. You think of the ministries, what they represent, and possibly the commercial and industrial sector. But the question that I want to ask is, if you look at the course that our universities offer, and you look at our counties, and you look at the diversity of our counties and the sort of businesses and what they could otherwise do, for instance, right? If the potential was actually realized and what needed to be done was actually done, are we then saying that the courses that are being taught might not find relevant in some of these places?
Yes.
That's what we're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Maybe it's the content in the courses that is outdated, but I think the courses will be relevant, technically speaking. The depth of what is being offered. If you're studying, for example, it's an engineering course, how many are teaching people on solar? We talk about TVETs, for instance. We have all these TVETs and the development of TVETs. How many of these TVETs are actually focusing on development of solar panels?
Or renewable energy.
For that matter, across the board. What's the focus? Is it still the focus on, so you come and this is how, this is current, this is resistance, this is voltage, and blah, 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 blah. I is equals V over R, or I is equals VR, or V is equals to I over R. What? The formulas are steamer. I
do agree with you, because the other day, one of my Uber drivers, when we were chatting, and I always chat, I'm a chatty type, and I asked the person, when they got into this business and what they did before. The fellow told me, well, he is a graduate of the Mwai University. I said, really? I said, okay. What did you study? He said, wood science. I asked him, wood what? I had never heard of wood science. Now, when he proceeded to explain to me, this is the beauty of jams. You have time to chat, and man, it was fascinating. Listening to what they are taught, how they're taught. He even told me, but I've even come to Standard. I said, why? He said, well, you guys did you did in paper, and that's a byproduct of wood. It is, isn't it just?
So what are they taught?
Friend,
what's wood science? What's that discipline? What do you
It's
learn?
A combination of looking at this as an energy source. It's a combination of looking at it as an environmental source. Just something that keeps the environment vibrant and alive. And also as a source of livelihood. Because tell me about, you see, people think of wood, they think of planks of wood, bow for building and so forth, or use as kuni, as we call it.
Yes.
He says it's a little beyond that. And he started explaining to me how it is you determine what wood is good for what, and not trees.
That's
wood. Yes. So I had something like 45 minutes of education. I was thoroughly educated, and I said, my goodness. So I asked him, and you couldn't be employed? He said, well, there's a limit to where I could get employed. And so I figured while waiting, I might as well do what I'm doing now.
So where do such graduates get employed?
Probably.
Who employs a wood scientist?
People who work in the forestry department.
So Kenya Forestry Service?
Yes.
KEFRI, Kenya Forestry Research Institute?
Yes. That's just about it.
How about
could have people like interior design and things like this?
I would assume
use these products for things like
people
furniture
who are
and
in
building.
the building industry and other related would consider them. But again, the straitjacket way of thinking.
Yeah, it's because you're thinking wood jenga.
Yes, what do you need
but
somebody
the things
who
that you talked about,
Yes, somebody who understands the science, who can actually tell you, no, if this is what you want to do with this wood, that is not, don't use this one.
Because you can also think about, at that point of thinking about building, innovations in the building industry.
Yes.
So this type of wood would be good for roofing in this particular area.
Yes.
This would warp, this would not.
Yes.
People like now plywood.
Precisely. And even the preservation of wood products, explaining what sort of preservation is good and how it is. As I said, I learned so much in those 45 minutes. And I said, and they asked, it's taught here. He said, yeah, it's Mwai University. I said, okay, it's good. Now you see, ignoramus myself, that is, okay? I knew science and environment.
Yes.
Bas.
Tosha.
what? Say no. And yet, now, when you talk about the appropriateness of the course that must be taught,
yes.
I do agree with you. But it's fine-tuning it so that it's not just relevant because there's a market for it, but some things need to be relevant for the future as well.
Indeed. Absolutely.
I think it's those opportunities. So, for instance, like you're saying, if university like Moi University had a facility that would develop such people, so that you're coming up with innovations. And I go back to the TVETs, because you're focusing a lot on TVETs, we are still talking about importing solar panels. We should be making solar panels,
We should, because we have the raw materials called the sun.
Yes.
We have it in plenty.
But this is also
and the
what
technology of it.
Yes.
I know there's a TVET called PC Kinyanjui where I saw some work was being done supported by UNESCO and the Korean government, in terms of just what you guys need. We can support you. We can get you the machines that you need just to teach people on the next level of science. But can you imagine if such places are the ones, if you knew that such polytechnics, the Kiambu Institute of Science and Technology that's getting the support of the German government, but they're producing stuff. So you learn, you get production there, and then you're also able to match it into the industry.
Absolutely. And I really think that through his speech, this is what Uhuru Kenyatta was saying. Because look at it. For example, just look at the way in which this should flow. There's a government directive that all buildings coming up, the residential buildings, and we're looking at from 2018 moving forward, must have solar panels, right? You're trying to build the economy at the same time. Can we construct them here in the country? Okay, yes, you say construct them here in the country. Is there enough in terms of skilled labor that can produce them in the country? Then you say no. Okay. In these training institutions such as TVET and wherever else, do we have the adequate learning and training for that to happen? So it's a relationship that cuts across all sectors. So I think it is about time that you have education sector and the working sector and everything else that happens in between holding hands and saying, how can we do this better? So there,
the story of solar power in this country is a fairly sad one in this sense. Anybody who's used solar, I speak as somebody who has. One of the things that you encounter about solar, it rarely lasted the length of time they told it would last. Broke down, and then there were these extremely expensive batteries that you bought. Those batteries also didn't last. Once you started taking them for recharging, you continue.
That's it.
You know the story. So the question is, are you telling me the science and the technology to make batteries, are we saying we can't do it in this country? Of course we can.
It can be done here. A lot of these things can be done here. A lot of the batteries can be produced here. The panels can be produced here.
They can.
In the next 10 or so years, the number of electric cars on Kenyan roads is going to be significant.
We already embraced electrical cars in this country.
So are we developing those? Are we developing charging? What kind of charging facilities do we need? Do we need some easy mobile charging facilities so that you don't have to think of, kuna stima, kuna grid, kuna blackout, Can we have ways in which these vehicles can just easily be charged across the country? These are the things that we should be
Are we training people to cater for this?
Yeah.
Remember, we already have facilities in this country where we are converting vehicles to electric, which means we have the knowledge. Locally.
There are several indicators to this. Just last year also we saw where the Engineering Council,
the Engineering Council,
sent back some graduates from the university because there was something they did not have in terms of qualification, certification. Okay, so why are you not holding hands before that to say, look, folks, even as you're teaching, this is one thing that we require you to have so that when you graduate, we can also certify you. But if you don't have that learning and knowledge, we can't give you. Why not have this conversation prior?
I spoke to a former classmate of mine who's an engineer, and he told me it's a discussion they've had among themselves. And some of the suggestions they have made, look, why don't we form something which in engineering is the equivalent of Kenya School of Law?
Yes.
Kenya School of Engineering. So that we know when you finish your course in the university, you go through that school. So this debate comes to a halt.
Exactly.
And that school will be populated by the academicians, the professionals, because after all, these professionals are taught in school by the academicians.
Yeah.
So this argument will come to an end. But so long as there is no such institution, he says, believe me, this thing it will not come to an end.
There will be too many engineers for...
Yes. Everybody has an opinion. Everybody thinks this ought to be this. Yeah. But to bring that uniformity, there's that need to have such a body.
What other story are you looking at, City?
The stories I'm looking at are a bit dismal because one is just what the war in Ukraine is doing, the harm that it's causing, etc., 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 etc. However, the story of the passing away of the immediate former president, Mwai Kibaki, and everything around it brought something to my mind.
Okay.
And that is the blessing that this country has in having 3 former presidents having passed away in the country and being buried in the country. It speaks of something that we've internalized as a normal transition. You understand, maximum 2 years, you go. Somebody else comes in. Now, we take it for granted because we see it happening. But you only need to look around to understand that not everybody does what we're doing. And not everybody is fortunate enough to have this sort of transition that we have, where someone can pass away, and indeed the country has an opportunity to reflect and talk. The vibrant debate and discussions that have been, some a little hairy, some a little truthful, some completely unbalanced, some balanced, whatever the case is, but that freedom to be able to even talk about these things that openly, it's something to be grateful for.
Don't take it for granted.
No, don't.
Don't take it for granted. It's true.
I have 2 stories, but
You
you
have
have
2?
one also.
I have one.
Go ahead.
I have 2, but let me pick one. This one is celebrating somebody. So just the other day, President Uhuru Kenyatta nominated several ambassadors and high commissioners, 24 of them, right? One of those was a lady called Nancy Karigithu, who has been nominated to become ambassador and special envoy for maritime and blue economy. Now, stakeholders in the maritime sector are upbeat that this appointment will put Kenya on the global map. Dr. Karigithu was served as the Kenya Maritime Authority Director General for 9 years. Then she also served as the PS, right? City?
Yes, she did.
They argue that Dr. Karigithu was competent enough to champion the country's agenda on maritime and shipping at the global stage, having served as KMA's Director General. She was named a diplomat. Chairperson of the Association for Women in the Maritime Sector in Eastern and Southern Africa, Kenya chapter Fiona Mbandi, noted that the appointment comes ahead of the first International Maritime Women's Day to be marked on the 18th of May. Kenya will celebrate this day in Kisumu. They say Dr. Karigithu was a founder and serves as a patron of Mombasa. We continue to recognize Karigithu's tremendous efforts and special place for the maritime community, and earning her title Mama Maritime, we wish her fair seas and calmer waters as she embarks on her global career. I think it's a good thing when you see such kind of appointment just rising and rising. You have been serving in this sector, and now you going to the global stage to talk maritime. You understand everything that you're being told to do.
She was employed by the Kenya Ports Authority before she went into this department of maritime. So if you're talking maritime, I think literally all her working life. But she's a lawyer by training, just so that you understand. But she clearly is one of those people who you cannot argue, whose competence and ability and knowledge cannot be argued about. She's been in that sector and has worked at it. Yes, I'm sure if you look at the legislation and the details that pertain to this sector, you'll find that her contribution is also immense.
Any policy that you look at in maritime, even the conversations about blue economy, you will find her signature somewhere.
You will.
It's a good thing.
Yes.
When you see such kind of stories, you're like, all right, yeah. I mean, you're making an appointment for somebody who is going not just to join a table or to be a placeholder or a talking head, but somebody who's actually going to contribute to something.
And somebody who has a history in that particular discipline, and somebody who even those who are in that particular discipline and in that field recognize as being one of them.
Yes.
It is a positive thing.
Very, very positive. Ndu, tell us one.
Okay, so Pangani Police Station has been flagged as reports show police killings are on the rise. Okay. Pangani Police Station has been the hotbed of extrajudicial killings in a new report that indicates police brutality and enforced disappearances are on the rise in Kenya. The report by Missing Voices, a consortium of 15 civil society organizations, notes that there were 219 cases of police killings and forced disappearances in 2021 alone. Now, police killings doesn't mean the police are being killed. It means individuals are being killed by police. You need to get that right. The cases have been increasing from 168 in 2020. The report by the consortium that includes Amnesty International, Kenya Human Rights Commission, Haki Africa, International Justice Mission, and the International Consortium of Jurists reveals of the 219 cases recorded last year, the report indicates 187 were police killings and 32 were enforced disappearances. It adds that of the 32 disappearances, 2 victims were later found alive after numerous campaigns by civil society. Pangani leads the pack of killer cops, quote unquote, with Missing Voices documenting in 30 cases of killings associated with the station. In 2021, every month, with the exception of June, officers from Pangani were accused of murder.
Okay. Keep it here for more conversations. Yeah. And remember, if you go to Naivas today, buy Colgate, 10 shillings out of that will go towards sinking 30 water wells by the end of this calendar year. This is an initiative by Colgate in association with Well Boring, an NGO, and they've been doing this for the last 4 years. So far, they've done 90 wells in 7 counties, and they're saying, let's work together, let's come together and do this. Colgate is actually saying thank you very much because they've noticed an uptick in the number of people who are buying this, knowing that they are contributing to helping others. It's now 7 a.m.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world.
Good morning, this is
94.4 Spice FM.
Kenyans are required to be seated at Nyayo Stadium by 8 a.m. tomorrow for the funeral service of former President Mwai Kibaki. Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i made the announcement while supervising the preparations at the stadium for the exercise, accompanied by the National Funeral Steering Committee. The Interior Boss revealed that the state funeral program will be concluded by 1 p.m. This is to allow enough time for preparations for the final rites that will be conducted at the former president's home in Okoh, Nyeri County. Now, members of parliament hailed the late former President Mwai Kibaki as a man who turned around the country's economy and transformed the education sector. Speaking during the National Assembly special sitting to pay tribute to the late president, the legislators said the only way to honor the fallen hero is to emulate his leadership of steering the development agenda and shun politicking. They recognized the efforts that Kibaki made in changing the lives of Kenyans, particularly in improving their standard of living. The legislators revealed that the taxation laws and policies under the leadership of the late president were favorable, especially to small-scale businesses. Now, Azimio la Umoja, one Kenya presidential flag bearer, Raila Odinga, concluded his tour of the United States of America and traveled back to the country. The former premier cut short the trip due to the ongoing national mourning and planned state funeral for former President Mwai Kibaki, who died last Friday. Odinga, who met a section of Kenyans in the diaspora as well as officials of the U.S. government, pledged zero tolerance in his government should he be elected the 5th president of the Republic of Kenya. Now, Kakamega Deputy Governor Philip Kutima has ditched the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition for the Kenya Kwanza camp ahead of the August polls. Kutima decamped to the Deputy President William Ruto-led political faction, the DP, flanked by Kakamega Senator and gubernatorial candidate Cleophas Malala, lauded Professor Kutima for his move. DP Ruto also commended the Kakamega DG for supporting Malala's bid for the Kakamega governor race under Kenya Kwanza. Kutima was initially in the race to replace Governor Wycliffe Oparanya in the county's top seat under the APK party, which is one of the constituent parties forming the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition party. Now, the Assets Recovery Agency and detectives drawn from the Finance Crime Investigations Unit are probing what is suspected to be a multi-billion shilling money laundering syndicate involving 3 companies and directors from Kenya and Nigeria. More than 25 billion shillings has passed through the three accounts, with the Assets Recovery Body freezing 2.5 billion shillings of the funds suspected to have been acquired through fraud from the United Arab Emirates, the US and several European countries. Inquiries by Interpol and European authorities led ARA to crack the whip on the three companies, freezing some 5.6 billion shillings in their account at a local bank and a Nigerian-based bank. Elema Halake has been sworn in as the new Chief Executive Officer of the Independent Policing Oversight Authority. Halake's oath was administered by the Registrar of the Court of Appeal, Moses Serem, at the Supreme Court building in Nairobi in a ceremony presided over by Chief Justice Martha Koome. His appointment follows IPO's advertising of the vacancy on November 23, 2021. Now, a family is seeking justice after their daughter was beaten by a dog owned by a British national in Watamu, Kilifi County. Joyce Musimbi and her two children were on holiday strolling along the beach on April 20th when the incident happened. The victim's mother claims that a week after the incident happened, no statement has been recorded and the suspect, Steve Dalton, has since been released on a 10,000 shillings police bond. She claims that there was no help from the suspect, forcing a witness to step in to assist the child. Now, the Department of Homeland Security processed more than 20,000 Ukrainians in the US-Mexico border and granted them humanitarian parole since March 11th, when officials began exempting them on a case-by-case basis following Russia's invasion, according to a newly filed court declaration. Blas Nunes-NATO, a top Homeland Security official, outlined the Biden administration's plan for an influx of migrants at the US-Mexico border when a public health authority known as Title 42 lifts in a court filing following a federal judge's intent to temporarily block the wind down. DHS, known as NATO, said it will be significantly curtailing those exceptions given the launch of Uniting for Ukraine, a streamlined process for Ukrainians seeking to go to the United States. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Assetto. Good morning.
SpiceFM, Nakuru.
It's piling up on Mombasa this morning and slowing down significantly because the rain is coming down in sheets. Where we saw the southern bypass and there was some traffic early on, that has cleared up, so it's not too bad. Still an option for you to get out into the city without having to sit in traffic. All right, let's look at North Airport Road, where a little bit of traffic is spilling over towards Outer Ring as you get to that junction coming in then from Savannah Road, also then higher up on the Manyanja Road, which is incidentally is bumper to bumper. Then get to Kangunda Road, bumper to bumper, again in and outbound traffic, and then further ahead get to Komarok Road, which also is bumper to bumper. Then you connect to the Thika Superhighway and traffic starts right there at that junction, heading all the way to the Pangani underpass, and we're looking at back and forth bumper to bumper traffic on Kiambu Road. So it is that morning and things are already looking really tight. We're going to have to see what it looks like shortly. We're also seeing some on Limuru Road coming out of Westlands, likely to be really messy as well because Ring Road Westlands is already doing the thing. And who is this? James Gishuru, my goodness. Bumper to bumper, back to back, in and outbound traffic. Hey, Red Hill Link Road might be an option this morning. Talk to us, guys. SpiceFMKE on Twitter. Text 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is
7
the
after 7.
Situation
Good morning,
Room.
and how are you doing? Welcome to the second hour of Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room. It's Thursday, it's Friday, it's closing day. From this day, Kenya goes on halftime until sometime we don't even know when.
Okoh.
He could just be somewhere. Maybe after election. It's the 28th day of April 2022. City Muga is in the building with the day's proverb.
Indeed. Okay, last proverb from Togo. When all men say you are a dog, it is time to bark.
When all men say you are a dog, it is time to bark.
Yes, it is.
Assume the position.
Kamata position.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Yegon Kimulgor is back from Kampala. Yegon Ramadan Karim, listening to SpiceFM, the biggest morning conversation. I think this one had gone to the General's 48th birthday.
Yeah, it's true. Even people the likes of Paul Kagame had also gone to this celebration.
Yegon, Paul Kagame, and his other mates had gone to celebrate the 48th birthday of the leader of the Uganda People's Army, and his name is General Muhoozi Kainerugaba, the son of Yoweri Museveni. People call him the great leader of the future of Uganda. Yes. Yegon, welcome back. Welcome back. There was a second story that you wanted to tell us.
Yes. Side by side with this Pangani killing, speaking of throttling people, 4 oil marketers are on the spot over erratic supplies. There's still a petrol thing, eh? All right. The state, the powers that be, have directed the firms to sell excess export stocks locally or face the consequences. Right? 4 oil marketing companies are on the spot for holding large volumes of excess stocks of petroleum for the export market despite erratic supplies in some parts of the domestic market. An audit by the Petroleum Ministry revealed that the OMCs were holding 34 million litres of excess transit volumes within the Kenya Pipeline Company system as of Tuesday at 11 a.m., even as consumers in parts of the country, especially Western Kenya and the North Rift, reported unreliable supply. This is completely unacceptable, according to Petroleum Principal Secretary Andrew Kamau. And in a protest letter to the marketers following the audit, he ordered the OMCs holding excess stocks of product to reroute a total of 31.9 million litres to the local market with immediate effect. The audit showed that Asharami, as of Tuesday, held the largest volume of excess export stock, with the state directing the company to sell up to 13.19 million litres of its consignment locally. Total Kenya was also found with sizable volumes of excess stocks of petroleum for export and directed to sell some 2.4 million litres in the domestic market. Other firms that were found with large volumes of the excess export product were Lake Oil and Fossil Fuels, which were ordered to redirect 2 million and 1.5 million litres respectively to the domestic market. This is therefore, according to this directive, to ask you to redirect your respective volumes to the local market by close of business today, being Tuesday, failure to which we shall take action.
That was 2 days ago.
Yes. For sellers, any product declared as local in excess of the transit volume of 40% shall not be allowed to participate as a seller in the upcoming tender. So you don't do this, and you want to operate later, we're not going to allow you.
Locked out of business.
So just offload it now.
Wow. So the CS for Energy, who's also acting as a petroleum CS, also released that update on the, the status of petroleum sales. In fact, what the other thing that they're doing is they've directed that some 2 vessels that are due to dock in Mombasa with diesel and super petrol are going to have that stock coming straight and strictly to the Kenyan market. It's all going to be domestic. So which is just looking at saying and saying this is what we expect to see. This is what we want to see. We want to stabilize this market. We want to stabilize supplies. There is a 60-40 ratio of all the import product that comes into the country. 60% is designated for local and then 40% to be exported to the region. Now, what they're saying is basically they've noticed that some companies, when they get their ration, 60% should be sold locally and 40% should go international. Some of them are doing 41% export, 42% export, maybe 43%, maybe 50% export.
They may have invested 60% export.
Yeah, you know? They'll be told, where?
Stop it.
Where? But the big thing that here that I think we're talking about is that there's a direct allocation of volumes, not now pro rata according to size of your market share, but coming straight to independent oil marketing companies in the country. These are those that are not under the franchises, the big ones, and which is a good thing because that addresses the problem in Western Kenya. And I think going forward, then the ministry and IPRA should come up with a policy on how they divide this product. As it comes into the country, let it go straight. You know that you are a local independent oil marketing company. You have petrol stations, 1, 2, 3, doesn't matter. You have access to direct products. So not having to buy from the big boys, then who can also tell you,
we're not selling to you.
Wewe lakini wewe unanipigianga saa 6 usiku sikuuzii mafuta.
It's okay. Who are you? No, it's okay. I don't even need your business.
Yeah. Imagine. It's wrong. Anyway, let's talk about something else that's happening in the country. And this week is all about safety globally. And we're seeing the conversation that's taking place across. So I want to read you a story that's in the Standard today. See, you show me that page. It was here. Page 15, Standard Group marks World Day for Safety Health at the Workplace. Okay, Caleb Otieno, Rosa Agutu, who's written this story, starts with the story of Caleb Otieno, who died after he was trapped inside a boiler at a steel manufacturing factory in Thika, Kiambu. You remember that story?
Mm-hmm.
Where it was believed that the 34-year-old fell into the boiler after the gloves that he had on got stuck in one of the rods that he was pushing into the boiler. That just put him in there. His death is a reminder that this year's World Day for Safety and Health at Work is marked in the backdrop of constant need to control elements that can cause harm and accidents at work. Indeed, according to the Occupation Safety and Health Administration, the main goal of safety and health programs is to prevent workplace injuries, illnesses, and deaths. Safety is a big thing. We talk about safety in the workplace, safety at home as well, and safety everywhere. One of the things when you hear of safety is you also think about fire. And fire is big. Fire is misunderstood. There's a story on page 3 of the Standard again today, where 4 children aged between 3 and 7 died in a fire accident in Nyandarua County. They were sleeping when their wooden house caught fire and was raised on Tuesday night. The parents of these 4 children were not in the house. It was not known exactly what happened. The fire started around midnight, according to the neighbors. The neighbors say they tried to save the children, but unfortunately the fire was so fierce and the children had locked themselves inside, making it hard to access the house. Strong winds also assisted the fire to spread. So you can imagine, these adults have left their kids. Maybe they've gone to work, both of them, at night. And you've left your children aged between 3 and 7. And you're called by your neighbors and you're told there's been a fire in your house and that all your children have died. All of them. And that just, brings this whole story into perspective. And that's why we want to talk about fire prevention and safety tips for the home and the office. And joining us for this conversation is Richard Nyaga. Richard is a business development manager at an organization called Flamatech Limited. Richard, good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation. This is the situation room. That is a hot seat. You deal with fire. So I don't know whether you know how to put out these kind of fires that we're about to light for you. It's about Flamatech and Flamatech Limited. Tell us about this organization. Who is Flamatech and what do you do?
Good morning, listeners. I'm Richard Nyaga, the business development manager at Flamatech. Flamatech is an organization that deals with fire safety, a one-stop shop for fire, meaning everything about fire safety from A to Z, meaning from as simple gadget as a fire extinguisher to as complicated as a fire suppression system. We take across the board anything to do with fire safety.
An extinguisher does not suppress fire?
It does, but there are various types of extinguishers, and many people don't know about it. So we want to be learning something today.
Well, we are among those people, though, as far as I'm concerned, an extinguisher is a suppressor. So now...
extinguisher.
And now you've complicated this matter further by telling us there are many types of extinguishers.
Yes.
Next, you'll tell us there are many types of suppressors.
Or there are many types of fires.
Yes.
So, as basic as it may sound, there are different types of fire, and every other fire depends on how you fight it. The main types of fire that we know are organic fires. These are fires normally on paper, wood, the common items that we have on our daily lives, paper, wood, timber, charcoal. Those are normally fires that can be fought with basic water. Then if you're looking at more advanced kind of fires, we have combustible liquids, for example, petroleum. We have combustible gases, for example, methane. We have combustible metals. Something if you're looking at lithium, magnesium. We have combustible oils, for example, cooking fat. So all these you need a special kind of knowledge to fight. You cannot use water to fight petroleum because they have different kind of combustible elements. Meaning, to make it in a simpler way, there are different types of fire, meaning the three elements that are needed for fire to occur are one, heat, there needs to be oxygen, the substance, and also the ignition. For instance, for wood, you just need to ignite. The wood is the substance and oxygen. So for you to use water, water suppresses water by cooling effect. It cools. That means it removes the heat. For you to have to extinguish fire, you need to remove one of the elements, either oxygen, heat, or the substance. So when you're fighting fire using water, you're just cooling the effect, removing heat. That means it suppresses the fire.
Okay. What are the most common fires that we see? I mean, if we're talking about locally here, what are the most common ones that we see?
The most common fires are organic. That means which are but basically the normal things we use every day, like wood, paper, bedding materials in houses, those kind of things. And more so, there are other class B fires, which are combustible liquids. That's for petroleum. We've seen these incidences, petroleum, and those are the most common.
And are they domestic, or are we looking at within industry?
It cuts across the board because the same materials that we have in our offices could be at times we are the same we have at home. For instance, we have wooden desks at offices. The same we have furniture at home. Right.
You know, when you talk about the elements that are required for fire to actually be the fire that we know, I want to go back to the question that Ndu asked. One of the things that we faced a couple of years ago were what we refer to as school fires. Schools being burnt by students within the school.
All right.
Now, one, those schools are boarding schools, they have mattresses.
All right.
These mattresses, some of them are made from petroleum products.
True.
Yes. Then, oxygen is in plenty, there's no question about it.
Right.
And as for the element of lighting it, now, let me ask, when you talk to institutions like schools, boarding schools, or any institution that has students who live within it, what are the things that you tell them or educate them about ensuring safety from fires?
When you come to institutions, I'd like to classify it in two categories. One, the fires that we've been witnessing, those were elements of arsonists. The children turns rowdy and they cause a fire. But in a normal situation where there is a fire outbreak, which is caused by other than human element, then we tackle it by having trained people within the organization who can be fast responders. These are normally called fire marshals. They are cut across offices, homes. Not homes. Organizations and offices, they normally have fire marshals. These are people who are trained to be either proactive and, again, active, depending on the situation. But when you go to schools, You find in the dormitories, there could be matrons or minders who stay with these children. They should be trained. This is in a case where the fire is not intentional. But where it is intentional, now we come to active part of fighting it.
You know, when you say this, you mentioned about there being a human element in all this, and I was thinking, in what sort of fire is there no human element?
There are many instances. For instance, if there is an electrical fault, there is no human element.
There's a human being who should have ensured that electrical system did not have a fault and they didn't do their job.
Definitely, that I agree. But what I mean by human element is that the person who is doing the trigger, the one who is igniting.
I've just mentioned the trigger, that person.
Exactly.
Yes.
So you find most of the fires that we have, they are causes of fire.
Yes.
Fires don't just happen. Yes. They are causes. So one could be using of defective equipments, cables, using defective equipments, low standard equipments. Then you find the usage of these equipments. For example, you want to charge your phone and you want to use it. So that puts the battery on very, very high activity mode, which may burst into flames. Yes. So most of these are human triggered, but not directly.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. So when we're looking, you talked about, these fires, which we're discussing primarily, are spread across an industry, and then domestic. Would you say that more or less people are prepared in the event that something would happen to be able to either, number one, protect themselves or then fight said fire? Because if a gas cylinder blows up, which, by the way, is something that is really common that we've seen, especially in smaller spaces, there are two things. One would run away or try and throw water on the thing. Do you find that people are ready in terms of response? And if not, what are things that people ought to know to do? Because when there's that emergency, the first thing that you're thinking is to evacuate the area, which is what we've been taught. But then here you're also wanting to salvage your things.
From my experience, fire sensitivity and it's quite low on our people. Very few people know what to do when fire happens. But my advice has always been, the first advice is don't panic. And if you panic, again, don't panic. Try not to panic, remain calm, because the moment you remain calm, you're able to think. Most people don't die or get injured by fire due to burning.
Okay.
They do it due to suffocation.
Okay.
So the moment at least you have your mind with you, you are able to think, you are able to view where is the exit or the best action, then it may save a life. For instance, you just mentioned if a gas explodes and someone is thinking about throwing fire, that will escalate the fire. Throwing water onto the fire, that will escalate. But at least if you are calm enough, you would know for gas fire, you don't use water.
What do you use, I guess?
You need to use foam. Then it means, do you have a foam cylinder with you? So it means it starts from awareness.
Okay.
The most common types of cylinder people know, they think there is only water inside. And that they would rush to take up the cylinder and direct it to the fire, if they have the courage to do that. But normally in real life, you find in case of danger, there are always two options.
Yeah.
Either you fight it or you run.
You flee.
Yes.
But then, so again, are we prepared? Because here we're looking at certain things that are government directives in terms of, we just spoke about it, for example, this morning, that the government requires that houses being built after a certain time then must have a solar element for heating water. Are we going to that extent where we say that then houses must have fire safety requirements in their homes? Foam extinguisher, water extinguisher, carbon dioxide extinguisher. What are we saying that now must be a directive? It's like insurance. You may never use it, but you're going to have it there just in case something happens.
Actually, that's something which is in our statutes and the occupational fire hazard and occupational safety. We have the laws that require, you have the prerequisite equipment for firefighting. But having the law and having the equipment are two different things. You find in my business dealings every day, you go and you're trying to pitch for a business. And the most common question that comes across is, I've been here for 50 years, I've been here for 40 years or 100 years. This is the fourth generation business, but we have never seen a fire.
Yeah.
but you find someone asking, or maybe you are planning to put up one. So
do you want to come?
That's why you want us to buy these things.
Yeah. So definitely we are not prepared. People, I wouldn't want to say ignorant, but the education levels of fire safety are quite low. Then the value addition to fire safety, even to trainings, people don't get direct benefit from investing in fire safety, because you cannot correlate it directly or put that kind of money you're investing in either training or equipments directly into business.
Sure.
This capital which is grounded, you cannot recover from it. So people prefer investing this money where it can bring back results, other than just keep extinguishers there and don't use them for 20, 30 years.
It's true, but it's just like taking insurance.
Yeah.
But you'll find that very many organizations will take up insurance, whether it's workman compensation or whatever, because it's a requirement by law. And yet they'll run away from putting up fire safety and fire safety measures, which is also a requirement by law. What is it? Is it about enforcement?
Exactly. It's about enforcement and people cutting corners. But of late, you've seen a good kind of initiative, especially with commercial buildings coming up in upmarket areas. The clients themselves are quite sensitive. And we've seen a trajectory, especially in sales of, for example, detection systems. And because these clients are well informed, they don't want to risk in an apartment which is not safeguarded. So it's something that's coming up, but now it cuts across the divide. When you go to low-end areas where they are putting apartments, commercial business malls, you don't find these equipments. But on the upper end, you will find them. So there's a lot of enforcement that needs to be done.
Maybe actually even in the upper end of the market is because of other requirements. Your financial, the bank has told you we need to see that you've actually secured this building. So that we minimize the risks of fires and other such things. Your insurance, you've taken up insurance. Insurance has told you, I'm not insuring your building until you show me all the safety measures you've put in place.
Definitely.
Which is not what's going to happen in the other sector of the market.
True.
So when you talk about firefighting and you say, okay, so typically in a home, you need to think of fire safety. You need to have maybe fire detectors and firefighting equipment. Are there some fire extinguishers that are more universal than others? You've said, for example, water. You're not going to use it on gas. I'm not going to use it if it's an electric fault, and I don't know whether it was an electric fault. So which one is the best to use that can cover at least more ground?
I'd say the more universally acceptable is as water-based fire extinguishers, which are common because the organic elements are all over. We have desks at home, we are at offices, we have beddings at home, we have furniture. So it cuts across the board. Then I would advise, if you want to safeguard your property, maybe at home, it's good to have a water-based and a foam-based. Foam, meaning you can fight gaseous fires. And the normal one fire, you will use the normal organic whatever. But because you cannot be able to have all, also because the kind of sensitivity and education about them, it needs to be done. You just, as a layman, you will not be able to understand.
Oh, so we need to have fire extinguishers in our homes?
Definitely. It's important. Actually, there are some things as basic as a fire blanket. Fire blanket is used in the kitchen, maybe in domestic kitchens or even commercial kitchens. That's like first aid for fire. The moment the fire goes haywire over the cooking range, you just need to place that blanket over it and put it out. That's a first attack measure, even before you can go to the extinguisher. So the person who attends to that kitchen should be aware how to use it.
The thing that I'm asking is, yes, one sees fire extinguishers in institutions like schools. But what about getting people to understand, A, how it is used, and also getting the children to be inculcated into understanding some of these measures at an early stage?
That's a good question. What happens is, normally, as per the law, there should be fire marshals in each and every organization. These fire marshals are the people now who conduct fire drills. Fire drills are basically, in case of fire, what are you supposed to do? What procedures are you supposed to follow? These are the people who teach. They are the teachers of people in an organization. So these are investments that should be done. Even in schools, there should be fire marshals.
Who trains fire marshals and what are they trained in?
Fire marshals are trained by now trained officers from Directorate of Health and Occupational Safety. Yes, these are licensed trainers. And they train them, one, in first aid, in drills. Like, for instance, when there is a fire here, what are you supposed to do?
Run.
You need to run, but where are you running?
Do you need to run?
You need to run, but you need to. The fire marshal will know where the exits are, where the fire doors are. He knows when to close the fire doors, when to put on emergency lighting. Are the people in the organization aware of where the fire assembly is? After that, he need to do a clean sweep to know, have all the people been evacuated? Because we could be having people on wheelchairs, we could be having pregnant mothers. Are they able to run? How were they saved?
That's true. Let's continue this conversation shortly after this break. 27 to 8, Kenya's biggest conversation, World Day for Safety. And we're having a conversation with Richard Nyaga, who's a business development manager at Flamatech Limited. It's a company that deals with fire and fire safety information, and also, of course, selling fire safety equipment. He's teaching us about fire, we need to know about fire, and how to put out the fires that we see in our lives. Yesterday's proverb was what? No matter how hot your anger,
it cannot cook yams.
26 minutes to 8.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. Brought to you by Colgate.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM.
Light rain, well, it still continues. It's coming down in Nairobi at 17. We'll see highs of 21 and lows of 15. At 15, it's partly sunny now in Nakuru. Highs of 22 and lows of 14. It's raining in Nyeri. 16, highs of 22 and lows of 14. And in Eldoret, it's coming down as well at 15. Highs of 22 and lows of 13. Rain showers continue in Mombasa this morning. Currently at 26. We'll see highs of 31. And in Malindi, it started early morning as well. We'll see highs of 31 and lows of 25. Partly sunny conditions now. In Kisumu at 19, we'll see highs of 26. 25 will be the high in Kakamega, where it's raining at 18. Mostly cloudy conditions. Rain has stopped for now. In Kampala at 20, highs of 24 and lows of 19. And the sun is coming out in Dar es Salaam at 25, highs of 29 and lows of 24. Lagos is mostly clear at 24, highs of 30, and it's 10 degrees and mostly cloudy in Johannesburg. 19 will be the high, coming down to lows of 9. It's raining in Kinshasa at 23. That'll be today's low, going to highs of 32.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and
1, 2, 3, 4,
nostalgic
and
ballads.
counting. Those are the number of accidents that we've seen this morning, and it's just on the Thika Superhighway and Mombasa Road today. It doesn't look really pretty at all, so that's slowing down traffic significantly. Let's look outside of Nairobi for 1 minute. There's something going on that Maimahi Road, and it's at a standstill, and we're already looking at kilometers of traffic. Okay, there it is. Trailer accident. Since 5:30, folks have been on the same spot for 2 hours and counting. If you're heading in that direction, know that you're joining the standstill. You might want to use an alternate route until that is moved out of the way. It's affecting traffic, tailing back quite some. Let's look at other parts of the city coming back into Nairobi, and everywhere is a mishmash of traffic. Most streets are bumper to bumper. All the way from Mombasa Road, we're looking out then towards North Airport Road, spilling over Outer Ring. Langata Road started really early, well beyond KWS this morning. Raila Odinga Way taking on some as well. So it is traffic hour. It started early and it's going to take us some time as the rains keep coming. Let's talk on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to Spice FM.
(22:08), the conversation continues. Eric Latiff, Okoh, CT Muga, and our guest Richard Nyaga from Flamatek Limited. We are talking about safety in the workplace, safety at home, safety everywhere. And Richard is here to tell us about fire.
Richard, so in terms of response, I mean, just trying to think, the assumption is that state would provide fire services, but then unfortunately we've seen the horror stories of, no water, arriving late, etc., etc. That has then seen the birth of many private companies who've then gone into the business to be able to offer these services if need be. What should it be? Should it be that you have very many private fire engines, that fire service, for example, to take care and just be on standby, or you depend on the public outfit?
My view is that safety starts with you. And before a state can provide safety for you, you should have taken some basic measures. I think it is important for us to privatize firefighting services, and each and every organization or zone should have its own firefighting equipments. For instance, if you've seen the county responses to fire, due to lethargy or at times you may not understand why the fire it takes so much time to come over. It comes sometimes empty. You may never understand. Could be lethargy, but if this is privatized, if it's a business, then I don't think any business owner would entertain that. So normally it's always government to catch up. Government plays catch up with the private businesses. So I think it's very important to allow private organizations to have their own fighting equipments.
Yeah, and even as we say this and we talk about what you should do for safety being provided at home, there's the assumption that everybody can go ahead and do that, right? So if you live in a flat or if you live in a home, maisonette, etc., the assumption then is that you have the wherewithal to have this basic provision of fire safety equipment. However, we have seen that very many times for many of the fires in the country, they're in places whereby the spaces are much smaller and they're much more crowded. I mean, Gikomba Market has burnt down I don't know how many times in the last 4 years. We've had places where it's one-room homes that are then suffering from these fires. The assumption also is that they don't have the wherewithal to have this basic fire safety requirements. How do we handle such?
This comes again to regulation, because in an ideal system, there should never be such crowded places. But again, this is a reality that we have. So it means it starts with you. It's you who is living in that crowded place to know what to do when those kind of things happen.
Oh, come on. We're looking at survival here. The people who are looking to have a place to sleep so that they can stand up at 5 a.m. and walk where they're going. Probably in terms of priority, a fire extinguisher is the last thing on their mind.
Yeah, but you see those kind of people, or in that kind of settlement, safety is last of the at the last of part of their mind.
Yes.
So they have more things to worry about. And now there should be some element of help from the state. For instance, if it's let's say Nakuru or somewhere like that, there should be a fire engine close by. Provided by the state, because these people may want to have the equipment, but they are not able.
They don't afford it.
Then, the first role of government is to protect life and property. So this goes back, the buck stops with the government to provide this kind of assistance to these people.
Let me ask you a mundane question. Gas cylinders, the one that we normally, the red ones, how much do they actually retail for?
Starts from 1,300.
1,300.
Right.
What's the capacity?
That should be 6 kg.
6 kg.
Right.
Now, what sort of fire can a 6 kg?
You said gas? Do you mean a fire extinguisher?
I meant there's a gas.
Yes, you did.
I meant.
You mean the LPG?
No, I meant extinguisher.
Extinguisher.
Forgive me.
Okay.
Forgive me.
I was so confused. Okay.
Gas is. Forgive me.
Yeah,
I meant extinguisher.
All right.
All right. What sort of fire is that capable of putting out?
Come up again.
All right. we have these
the red thingy.
The red
with the black nozzle.
Yes,
And
those ones.
6 kg.
6 kg.
What's inside it?
Yes.
First of all.
Now, I think what we need to do is to start from somewhere.
Yes.
There are basically more 4 types of firefighting extinguishers.
Excellent.
One is water. And you find on the cylinder, it's always marked with a bright red. There's a bright red label. That means it's a water cylinder.
Okay.
We have foam. Foam, it's called AFFF, aqueous film forming foam. That is alcohol resistant kind of foam.
Right.
It's always marked on the cylinder with a cream color. All right.
Okay.
The third type is called ABC, or dry powder. It's usually marked with a blue label on the cylinder.
Okay.
Then there is carbon dioxide. It's marked using a black label. So you need to know the kind of fire you're fighting to use the right equipment, the right extinguisher. Because if you try fighting combustible liquids like petrol using water, you escalate the fire. You'd rather leave it the way it is.
The reason why I ask, in fact, you've done a wonderful thing in taking the direction that you've gone to. So if one was looking for firefighting equipment for a domestic setup,
right,
what then would you choose?
For domestic setup, depends. Nowadays, we've seen so many people setting up offices in their homes. Or having as basic as a laptop and a small office.
Yes.
Then you need carbon dioxide, because carbon dioxide kind of extinguisher fights electrical fires.
As well.
Then the basic organic, again, we go to the furniture, to the mattresses, to the blankets, to tables. You need water-based fire extinguisher. As basic as that.
Essentially, now we've moved from 1 fire extinguisher to now we're now at 2.
We are at 2.
Okay.
Depending on the setting. But if you don't have an office at home, then you can use organic based, which is water.
Sindio.
How much these cost?
Starts from, depending on the category. For water based, starts from 1,000 bob for 2 kg, 2 kilo. All the way, now it depends with the kind of capacity you want. But starts from, let's say, basic from 1,000 shillings. Yes.
So if you had a 2-bedroom, for example,
right,
and you needed to get the 2 of them, the
right,
water-based and the foam,
or
the
carbon,
yes,
or carbon dioxide,
or carbon dioxide.
Right.
So what capacity then are you looking at for a 2-bedroom home, if a flat kind of thing, if that was the...
For a 2-bedroom, you'll need 9 kilo of water, which retails around 2,800, 2,800.
Okay.
Then you can have as small as 2 kilo of carbon dioxide at 3,750.
So if it was bigger, let's say you had a 4-bedroom, 5-bedroom kind of the house,
the capacity goes up.
it goes up, obviously,
right,
because now you're looking at covering more space.
But also, it's important to know where to place the extinguisher.
Right.
Because it's not important to put it in the bedroom. You need to put it in the hallway where it's accessible
by everybody.
Right.
If there were 3 things that you could teach across board, assuming that you had a group of people who are, maybe for the office and also for the home. So the assumption is that everybody who works in an office is of sound adult mind. How or what are 3 things that you would need them to know about safety? And then taking that question further and saying, in the home, where there's this assumption that there could be younger children, but that there was something that they needed to understand also about fire safety, what would be the 3 things that you would say in a domestic home setting and in a work setting, and then maybe even a factory setting? What are things that people ought to know about fire safety that they could, get by with if they knew those 3 things across board?
If I may start in an office setting, and the 3 things, most key things is you should know where the exits are. 2, you should know at least where the fire extinguisher is located. 3, you should know where the alarm bell is.
Okay.
You may help yourself and also others by knowing those 3.
The alarm bell is that place where it's written in case of
it's
fire,
called
break glass.
Break this glass. You should know at least, that's the most basic, everyone should know. Right. It may help you and also help others. Because, for instance, if you know where the exit doors are, you may show people, you may guide people out through those doors.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
In a home setting, ensure the kind of equipment you are using are of good standard. If you are building, don't go purchasing cables from every Tom, Dick and Harry. These cables are the ones that cannot carry a certain kind of amount of power, and they end up causing fires. Whenever you are there, because maybe there's always a surge, maybe the power had gone and comes back at a higher voltage. These are the kind of cables that burn our houses.
Yes.
Second, it's always good to ensure when you're leaving the house, like gas is put off, the switches are off. If there are kids in the house and maybe you want to leave, you can turn off the lights from the mains, so that even if they are playing with the sockets, there is nothing that can happen.
Okay.
Right. That's in case you don't need lights. Maybe you're leaving for a short time or something of the sort. Then it's good to keep equipments that use electric in good working conditions. Right.
In an apartment block, what's the best place to position a fire extinguisher?
Fire extinguishers, they are always placed along the staircases, where we also have a house rail, because it's mandatory to have a house rail in an apartment block where everyone can access it. Everyone knows where they are.
This house rail story is just a story, though. What's it connected to? So you have that key thing there that you can...
It's supposed to be connected to water, isn't it?
Exactly.
Normally,
Yes.
what happens is that the house rail is connected to a water source, which should have water always.
Should being the operative word here.
Yeah. This water is normally pressurized. It can be pressurized through gravity. That's why you have the tanks on the roof. Or if the tank is at the basement, then you need booster pumps to pressurize this water. Because if you have water and doesn't have pressure, then you cannot throw it to where the fire is.
Is it a building code requirement?
It is. Actually, no building should be, no occupation should be approved without this kind of equipments.
And so, apart from just the hose,
right?
What else should you have? You should have a tank.
It's a must, because a house without water is useless.
Okay. And you should also have water.
Constant.
And the source of water, it's recognized in law, is from the county government through the water company.
Not necessarily, because if maybe you've built an apartment block where there is no service water from the county, then you need to do a borehole.
You know, one of the things that is clear, you know where we're going with this question? We live in a town, let's talk about Nairobi, where water is a problem.
Right.
So, if you have that hose and it's supposed to be attached to some water source, the source exists, but there is no water. So, not useful. That's number one. Two, if you look at many of the buildings that comprise what we call apartment blocks, they don't even have what you call a fire exit. It is that one door, full stop. The rest are windows. And those are within the unit of the house or the flat.
Yep.
So in the event of a fire.
So it's a staircase.
But through that door that brings you into the house, there is no back door with back stairs. Doesn't exist.
Yep.
No, these are a result of, I'd say, break in rule of law or enforcement. But again, ignorance is no defense. It's us. It goes back to us. If you are renting that apartment, with all due respect, you should know. At least you should check.
Okay.
I know many people don't care about that at that point, but when it happens, that's when you realize it was important.
You made a statement earlier on, which is true of very many Kenyans, whether they're in the middle class or not. They are preoccupied with just staying alive.
Exactly.
So these are the things that we talk about. They will deal with them when they occur.
Exactly. And the costs.
Yes. They will deal with them when they occur. But it occupies too much of their mind, and it takes too much energy to deal with the very thing that we're saying. That takes me back to what I'd asked earlier on about making sure that this is a sort of knowledge that is part and parcel of children in school.
Exactly.
Because one of the things, this is a truism, things that you learn as a child, you rarely forget. Rarely. Now, imagine some of these safety measures when they are taught to children. They grow up knowing it and understanding it and internalizing it. If they are not taught as an adult, that information is going to be fighting with all the other things that they need to occupy their mind with. That thing is going to be taken to the backwaters completely. It will not be a priority.
I think it's a good question and it's a good observation. And actually, what happens nowadays is, if it's true that in Kenya right now we are in transition in our education system, introduction of CBC is the best thing that could have happened to our education system. Just like we were never taught about money, how to handle money and all those kind of things. Now this is being integrated into the CBC. As it evolves, then some of these things will be very necessary to be integrated so that children are taught from day one how to handle some of these situations. And the moment it's ingrained in their mind, they'll never forget about it. So I think it's work in progress. And registration should be there to enforce this.
You know why I mentioned you, since you're a business. You see, this is how you capture clients early in their lives. See, if someone is aware of this, when they're at an age where they can afford to, you will not really need to persuade them very much because they will understand the need. Or even when they can afford it, they will have it because they've understood.
Definitely.
So, apart from just the education sector doing what they do, those of you in the private sector, should you not also consider playing a part in this?
To be honest, we are considering a private bill for enforcement. Like, this something must be done. It needs to be done and enforced. Like, you cannot be given certificate of occupancy if you don't have the basic minimum requirement for this kind of equipments. It has happened in other countries in Africa, and I believe we can do it.
Is there an association of safety organizations in the country?
Ideally, yes, they are there. There are several, but I'd say they are still not yet out of the woods. They are trying to find their bearing. There are several. I wouldn't want to name
So currently,
them.
what are they? What are these associations doing? What do they do?
Mostly
is it
they
just
deal.
welfare of the business. Is it advocacy?
No, mostly they deal with training, fire trainings as CSR activities, right? But also you find most of them are geared towards profitability.
Yeah.
Now that's where you cannot separate the two. Them being either business or a CSR kind of organization.
I mean, I think about organizations. I mean, I know here at the Standard Group, we have fire marshals. There are people who, I remember months ago when we did a fire drill here, it was clear who the marshals were. And the hope was that they knew where all the exits are and things like that. And every now and then you're reminded of who their names are. But then is there regular training for these marshals? It could be Standard Group today, somebody else tomorrow. Are there regular trainings for these marshals if we're looking at the working environment now and say, things have changed, or a little bit more information that you ought to know that will now trickle down to the rest of the people who work in the organization? And this is just taking a work environment where there are thousands of people, coming in and out on a regular basis. Is there regular training available for them?
Ideally, it should be done twice a year.
Okay.
But in an organization where the population is high, there are high traffics, then should be quarterly. And this is something that should be factored in the budget because it costs money. And we do that. We have organizations that do fire training, licensed, and they also license and they give certificates to these fire marshals. Yes.
Interesting observations. As you talk today to those who are watching and listening to you, and they're thinking, fire, when you talk about fire, so I have a business, county is going to come and demand that I have a fire license, and they'll ask me where the fire extinguisher is. That's it. At home, they never come. So we think of fire only because of complying with what the government wants you to do.
Right.
How would you change that conversation and the mindset so that we think of fire as completely something that we ought to be thinking of on a daily basis, that it's a daily risk?
Actually, I'd like to thank you especially for this opportunity because it starts here and it starts talking to our people about their own safety. And before someone else can secure you, you need to secure yourself. I think if need be, each and everyone should take time to understand about fire precaution, causes of fire, as a basic minimum for your own safety, because before someone can guarantee your safety. And as much as it's expensive, it's good to have this kind of equipment. I have a good friend of mine who I wouldn't name, but he does sell safety equipments. And the funniest thing is that his business was raced down by fire.
Oh. The equipment is in a store somewhere else.
Yes, and because these are most of them are plastic and liquefied kind of products, it took like 3-4 minutes to bring down the whole thing. But the funniest thing is that he does fire. He does fire equipments. He sells safety
and he's
equipments.
aware about safety.
He is aware.
So it's not for lack of awareness.
No, it
It's
goes
not
back to
for
ignorance. Someone telling you, I've been here for 100 years. This is a 6th generation business, but we have never seen a fire. So until it happens.
Wow.
So at some point, it's not that they lack awareness. They know, but since it hasn't happened to you or to somebody you know, then you think it always happens to others.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you very much, Richard. Richard Nyaga is a business development manager at Flamatech Limited. They deal in fire safety training, selling of equipment, and also helping people to understand more about fires. We've been talking about that World Day of Safety for Safety. When was it? Yesterday? Or is it today?
The entire this
or
week.
is this the entire week?
Yeah, entire week.
So World Day for Safety is the week.
The week.
It's a week.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a week-long event.
World Day for Safety Week.
Yes.
Beginning with one day.
With a day. The day of week of safety.
There you go.
Keep it here for more conversations coming up in the next hour. Reminding you about Colgate. Go to Naivas. Buy Colgate. 10 bob will go to.
Thinking of 30 more water wells around the country. We've done 90 already, trying to do 30 more by the end of this calendar year so that 120,000 more Kenyans can have access to this much needed resource and keep people from many things like waterborne diseases, drinking dirty water, not finding it at all and having to walk many kilometers to get this precious resource, bringing it right to their doorstep.
Indeed. A very good morning to you. It's 8 o'clock.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around
This
the
is
world.
Muga,
94.4 Spice.
Orange Democratic Movement leader Raila Odinga has appointed a 7-member panel to vet and advise him on the best running mate candidate. In a statement read by the Coalition Secretary General Junaid Mohammed, Odinga, who is also the Azimio presidential candidate, stated that the names of successful candidates must be submitted before May 10th. The 7-member team shall include Bishop Peter Njenga, Archbishop Zacchaeus Okoh, Senator Enoch Wambua, and Michael Orwa. Other members are former MP Noah Wekesa, Sheikh Khalifa, and Beatrice Askell. The panel secretary shall be Azimiola Umoja, One Kenya Chief Executive Officer Elizabeth Mayo. The 7-member team will sieve through the list of probable candidates and arrive at a decision through consensus. The first onslaught for the team will be to agree on the rules of procedure for arriving at key running mate candidates for the coalition, which has a sore thumb for the coalition. Meanwhile, the professional women of Nairobi now say that Martha Karua is the most suited candidate to deputize the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga during the forthcoming general election. The professional women of Nairobi representative Nyeri affirmed that they are wholeheartedly in support of Karua being Odinga's running mate. She said Karua has been a dedicated advocate for the protection of women's rights, a pioneer and a firm defender of the democratic process in Kenya, considering the scarcity of women in the decision-making process spheres. Karine also pointed out the excellent leadership skills she has displayed in her political career, stating that Karua has made sacrifices for what she believes in despite the challenges she faced. And the United Democratic Alliance has issued certificates for aspirants who won the party primaries for various elected positions. The William Ruto-led party will field 42 gubernatorial candidates and 44 senators in the 47 counties. The candidates are optimistic they will trounce their opponents in the August 9th general elections. Aspirants from across the country, accompanied by their supporters, celebrated what the termed as democracy and fairness in the party. Now, Bonchari Member of Parliament Pavel Oimeke has stepped down from active politics after he lost the Orange Democratic Movement ticket ahead of the August elections. Oyemeke had lost the ODM ticket during the party primaries, and Jonah Ondieki, a Kenyan USA-based administrator, was given a direct ticket. In a statement, Oyemeke indicated that he will not be defending his seat come August general elections after having consultations with his electorate's family and friends. And Wajir Governor Mohammed Abdi will defend his seat on an independent ticket after Jubilee Party handed the direct ticket to Dr. Hassan Mohammed. The two were eyeing the ticket alongside former Cabinet Administrative Secretary Mohammed Elmi. Abdi was impeached last year but successfully defended his case and managed to convince the court to overturn the verdict of the Senate. Governor Abdi said he is confident of being re-elected in Wajir, citing his career and development track record. Some of the projects initiated and implemented by Abdi include health, water, education, and infrastructure. Now, local leaders from Samburu County have condemned the ongoing perennial clashes after dwindling pasture and retaliatory attacks between the Pokot and Samburu communities, which have reportedly claimed 4 lives. Led by the former Principal Secretary, State Department of Environment and Natural Resources, Dr. Richard Lesiampe, they urged the national government through Interior Ministry to act swiftly in a bid to restore peace and stability. The leaders further urged the herders to put aside their tribal differences and coexist peacefully, particularly ahead of the forthcoming August general elections. Meta, Facebook's parent company, is taking aggressive steps to counter the spread of misinformation in its services in Kenya by removing content that could incite violence or cause physical harm ahead of the August 9th general elections. Meta said that they are working with their fact-checking partners in Kenya, who include AFP, Africa Check and PesaCheck, to review and rate potentially false content on their platforms, label it and place it lower in their feed to limit the number of people seeing it. Meta Public Policy Director for East Africa and Horn of Africa, Marcin Ndegwa, said they are careful not to limit political speech since the company has a fundamental belief in free expression, respect for the democratic process, and the belief that political speech is the most scrutinized speech there is. Her remarks come at a time when different political parties, politicians, and mainstream media have become target of fake news as the election campaigns enter its home stretch. And education ministers from the Commonwealth countries are meeting in Nairobi this week to discuss major issues and challenges in education. The 2-day conference under the theme Rethinking Education for Innovation, Growth and Sustainability post-COVID-19 is the 21st meeting of Commonwealth education ministers and comes ahead of the CHOGM in Rwanda later in the year. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
Quite some of it in many parts of the city. Mombasa Road is doing a business today, getting onto North Airport Road as well, and then out towards Outer Ring. That's really happening. There's a road called Popo Road. You know Popo Road? There's some traffic there, and that's just into South Sea, coming off of Mombasa Road, just after Bellevue. There's some action going there. It's going to take you all the way through, and then into and out of, back onto Uhuru Highway, when there's traffic all the way to the Haile Selassie Junction, out into the CBD, out into Westlands, Langata Road. Don't go there. I've told you. Don't go to Langata Road. If you go to Langata Road, don't say I didn't tell you. Use the Southern Bypass to get out into the city much better. Kiambu Road, my goodness, it's redder than red. What's the color that's redder than red? Back-to-back traffic, in and outbound. It's cray. Eastern part of the city is also doing that thing. The western part of the city, Lavington, inside there, coming out, State House, Kileleshwa, Dennis Pritt, Muga, James Gishoro, doing that whole thing. There's a lot of traffic everywhere you look today. So let's keep our wits about. Let's try and keep things, on the low, and hopefully it doesn't get too crazy. But then let's talk. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man
It
who
is 8
believes
minutes
in
after 8,
punching up.
28th day of April 2022. Happy Thursday, which is a Friday, which is closing day, which is
Beginning
the beginning
of
of half-term. Kenya is going on half-term.
The whole country.
The whole country. Back to school on Wednesday next week.
Mm.
Na kukinyesha, could even move it to Thursday.
There are people who are just going to take the whole week off.
Completely, Sindio.
Sindio. So you come back to work with Anna, forget this thing.
Wait first.
2 more days.
Why am I coming for this?
2 more
Why?
days.
2 days.
Forget it. Off.
Just take off. So this is half-term week.
That's when you take 2 days off work. So you enjoy another whole week.
An entire week.
You got the memo?
Hey. City has the day's proverb.
I do.
Yes.
I do. And it's from Togo. When all men say you are a dog, it is time to bark. Woof.
When all men say you are a dog, it is time to bark.
Yes.
Yeah.
Woof.
Woof woof.
Oh, what a laborious bark that was.
It's a tired bark.
Clearly.
Dog telling you, I've got a job to do. Just understand. Then it goes woof.
Leave me alone.
And that woof means go away.
He goes back to sleep.
Stop bothering me.
Woof.
Yes.
Woof. Goes back to sleep.
Yes.
So we're still mourning the death of former President Mwai Kibaki, the third president of the Republic of Kenya. Many people who've been here have told us their personal experiences working for and with the former president. Yesterday, for instance, we had a former provincial commissioner, Jafta Rugut, who worked with Kibaki, and he told us, in fact, Kibaki sort of made me the MP for Odaya, because now he was the president and he still needed to represent the people of Odaya constituency. So he'd send me and tell me, there's this that we are doing, there's this, the other that needs to happen, can you find out? So he ended up being Central PC and MP for Odaya, representing the president. Earlier we had the private secretary who was telling us the days that how the president was spending his days in retirement. We've also spoken to the State House Comptroller, Matera Kereri, who was telling us about his association with the President Kibaki from the day the president became his lecturer at Makerere University to the day the president became his boss at the National Treasury in the Ministry of Finance, to the day the president became his boss in State House. They were very good friends. Let's not forget that Mwai Kibaki was an MP. He was MP in Nairobi, went to be MP in Odaya, and served as MP until 2012. All those years as a parliamentarian. He contributed to debate, he contributed to laws, he was leader of the official opposition, and in all those days that he was serving all those functions, there's something that he was doing for the country, and that was serving the country. If we talk about him as a member of parliament, what do you remember, CT?
Well, one thing that I do remember is one of those MPs who seemed to have had a permanent and pensionable job, because the duration of time he was member of parliament for Odaya, he remained so. And there was no interruption, none whatsoever. There are very, very few people who managed that feat. One of them was Daniel Arap Moi. It's odd. It's the president.
Did they retain him as the member of parliament by virtue of the fact that he was president? Same thing happened with Moi. He was retained as a member of parliament because he was president. Or did the people of Odaya actually feel that he was representing their needs as a member of parliament ought to do? Or was it because, look, you're not going to boot him out. He's the president of the country.
What are you asking?
You're going to keep him there. Was he retained? Because he said he remained there until there was an election. There were elections every 5 years, but he remained member of parliament. They kept voting him back in as member of parliament.
It was a requirement to be president. You had to be an MP.
Sure.
So the people of there, knowing that they want to support their man to be the president, they also had to elect him.
This is
as
it.
their
This is
MP.
what I'm saying. Had it been switched around, so it's almost as if you had no choice but to put him there.
You did have a choice.
So were you going to remove him? He's the
But
president.
then if you removed him,
It means that you don't want him to be
yes,
president.
So who else were you going to have to champion your cause? Because consider, for instance, every president we've had, with the exception of one President Uhuru Kenyatta, they always retained their seat, even when they were not the president. Jomo Kenyatta did that. Moi did that. Another gentleman who did that was Jeremiah Nyaga. That man was MP all his life.
All his life.
Yes.
Right?
I mean, you associated that seat with him.
Yes.
For as long as it appears like he wanted it. Because the guy at some point says, I'm taking a break of all, from all this.
Yes.
But remember, it's a feat that very few people have managed to achieve. So it tells you that the people whom he represented understood the importance of their son, and they wanted to support their son, come sunshine or rain.
In whichever way they could.
Yes.
Let's talk about how he was as a member of parliament then, and somebody who served as the Speaker of the National Assembly at a number of years when Mwai Kibaki was member of parliament for Udaya, is Francis Ole Kaparo, who joins us now via video link. Bwana Speaker, good morning.
Good morning to you.
Order.
Order.
Speaker Kaparo, you were Speaker when Mwai Kibaki was a member of parliament and when Mwai Kibaki was leader of the official opposition. Tell us about Mwai Kibaki as leader of official opposition and how you interacted with him as the Speaker of the National Assembly.
Well, first of all, I would like to pass my heartfelt condolences to the family, friends, and the nation of Kenya for the loss of an illustrious son of Kenya, the late President Mwai Kibaki. He was indeed a gentleman. He was a very sharp debater and a person who rarely, and I repeat, rarely showed anger in public. He was a very good leader. I first met him when I was a young lawyer in Nyeri, and he was vice president and MP for Thaya in 1977. And I subsequently joined parliament when he was Minister for Health and joined cabinet with him in 1991. And in the capacity of cabinet minister, we were asked towards the end or middle of 1991 to find 1992 to find out ways and means of revamping KANU on the onset of multipartyism. And he and I were members of a very small committee. And when the following day I approached him to seek his views on when we'll meet, he said, "You youngsters, you are fresher, and you guys can do better than some of us. So please try to find out the best ways." A few days later, he had left KANU and went to DP as the party leader. But subsequent to that, of course, the general elections of 1992 were held. He came in as a member of the opposition, along with other luminaries, including Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, Kenneth Matiba, and all. And he remained very focused, as always, on matters before the House, and contributed in a very, very informed manner. And rarely, and I repeat again, rarely was he drawn into any debate about personalities or things that didn't matter to the country. Subsequent to that, he later became the leader of the official opposition, and in that capacity, he did extremely well. And all along, his qualities of a good debater, a gentleman, and a patriot played out throughout his time. Subsequent to that, I also served as speaker when he became president. And I think everybody expected that with the change of regime, Kanu leaving the scene and not coming into power, everybody expected that the speaker would be changed. And I expected the same. But he called me and said, you have been doing well as speaker. You will continue to serve your country if you accept in that capacity. And he marshaled the numbers to make that happen, for which I'm eternally grateful. That was Kibaki, the man, the gentleman, the patriot, and a fine person.
You know, one of the things that Kenyans, should we say Africans, are known for is we are going to say obituarize, and we speak extremely well of people when they have gone into the afterlife. And it's like it's almost taboo to mention anything that may not seem like praiseworthy. Well,
you know,
yes,
indeed that is true.
Yes.
Indeed that is true. And I have always said to friends and foe alike, if you really want to say anything good about me, say when I'm alive. Because when you say it when I'm dead, I wouldn't hear it and it wouldn't matter. That is one thing that is wrong with our society. And the other thing that I personally wouldn't like is this whole concept of displaying my body when I'm dead in public. I wouldn't like that. I don't know about others, but I wouldn't like it. I think a lot of people come there, they don't know you, they have no affection for you. It's just like a ratio. And anyway, that is life. That is how Kenyans are used to. But personally, I wouldn't like that to happen when I depart planet Earth.
Bwana Kapara, are you saying that you're not going to view the former president yourself?
I'm not saying I'm not viewing. Personally, it is not personal. I'm just talking about myself.
You know,
when I depart.
You see, why I was saying what I said was because of one simple fact. When people are in positions like, say, the president, even like you, who held senior positions within our government, and you're a speaker, at some level, you become the property of the people. And there are many decisions you may not particularly agree with, but the decisions will be made on your behalf, whether you agree or not. What do you say?
Well, unfortunately, yes, that could happen, but I am also of the view that people must respect the wishes of the departed. But that's besides the point. The point is that was a very sharp brain. That was a gentleman that has no equal in Kenya. I think the nearest I could get to on the political scene, on matters of being good-mannered and gentleman, was the late Michael Kijana Wamalwa. People who rarely displayed anger in public, and people who are very articulate in matters debate. And I think the best way he did it to a person who was not behaving well while he was debating in the House, his put down has always been, we have been around. We have been around.
Yeah.
Telling that guy that I have a lot of experience, and I was here many, probably decades before you. And that was his most famous put down.
Sure. Bwana Kaparo, you talk about this brilliance. You talk about this, well mannered articulation, this intelligence. What were some of the ways you saw these attributes being played out, whether it was as member of parliament, whether it was as president? How did you see these things being played out that could be examples of these things that you speak of?
Well, let me just give you a few examples. If you went to President Kibaki, as he then was, and gave him some gossip or some allegations against another person, his standard response was hiyo ni vitina. And I believed with all my heart that the late Kibaki never took gladly people who peddled falsehoods or people who went there to accuse others with lies. I remember also at some stage, some of his ministers, when I was speaker, at the early part of his presidency, some of the ministers went to President Kibaki to tell him to evict the late President, former President Mwai from his Kabarak residence, because according to them, that was a government property. It was never transferred to Mwai, and he was no longer vice president because that residence was he occupied because he was vice president, and that he was no longer acting in government and therefore must be evicted. And when I got this news, I went to him and we chatted with him, and he not only told those people to keep off the late President Mwai and the residents, but actually ordered that he be given title for that land. That was him.
Some would argue that that was Mwai Kibaki just going against the law. I mean, if the building was all along earmarked to be the residence of the vice president, the former president did not leave it for his vice presidents, he's continued to stay there, then that should have just been corrected. That, okay, Kabarnet Gardens is the residence, the official residence of Kenya's vice president. Why normalize an anomaly?
That may be your argument, but look at it this way. I don't know how old you are in 1990, 1991, 1992.
I was a teenager.
Remember the kind of bitter politics between KANU and the opposition. We spilled over into the new parliament and into our society. It was very acrimonious. Look at it this way. Supposing those ministers were allowed to execute their thoughts and evicted former President Mwai crudely, as they were about to do, what would have happened to the country called Kenya? And I read it the other day, I don't know whether it was yesterday, the former minister, I think he was then Minister for Justice, Kiraito Murongi, I don't know what portfolio he was holding at that time, saying they wanted to jail Mwai. I mean, if that kind of thing happened, you wouldn't be sitting in the Kenya in which we are sitting today. But finally, the law as it was then, all public land vested in the president, and the president had power to grant that land to anybody he wanted. It wasn't corruption because Mwai never sought for it. It was the gesture of the president to bestow that piece of land to a person who has occupied it for over 3 decades. That's my understanding, and I think it was the right thing to do. I still think that if you did the opposite, it wouldn't have been in the best interest of the Kenyan people.
So it was a statesmanly thing to do for the greater good of the country called Kenya. Are there other instances where, when he was serving as president and you were Speaker of the National Assembly, that you look back and you think, were it not for the president's intervention or direction on this particular matter, would not have been where we are today?
Yes, indeed, there are many instances. You remember, for example, the issue of the Atu brothers. You remember that?
Yes.
You know, that matter was very acrimonious. That matter came to Parliament, and I ruled against the. You know what happened is, as that saga of the two brothers was raging, a member of Parliament brought a motion to the House. Meanwhile, the executive set up a commission, I believe, a committee to deal with it. And the minister then in charge of security, the late Michuki, came to the House and said, because we have set up a commission to deal with that matter, this matter should not be discussed in the House. And I ruled against that. I said Parliament is superior than executive ministerial action. And finally, you as minister have a responsibility and a duty to answer to the National Assembly and through it to the Kenyan people what the issue is all about. And you know, the whole executive was really mad with me, which I was used to anyway, because as Speaker, you shouldn't ever attempt to please any part or any party or any group. You have to do what is right and what is within the law and what is in the best public interest. And when the executive were mad about this, and they went to the president to talk about it, then the president told him that the speaker is right, and it is his duty to interpret the law and to make rulings on behalf of the National Assembly, and that you must abide by it. That was him. Played by the law, accept what the House said, and respond to it.
Very good. We'll get more gems from you shortly after this quick break. We're speaking with the former National Assembly Speaker, Francis Ole Kaparo, who served as Speaker of the National Assembly, who served with President Kibaki in Cabinet, served as Speaker of the National Assembly when President Kibaki was an opposition member of Parliament, rising to the lead of official opposition, rising to the President, and Kaparo was still there as Mr. Order in the National Assembly. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. 8:30, we are live on KTN Home, on SpiceFM, and online on Facebook and YouTube. We'll be back shortly. So as we remind you, 760 shillings every month. What does it give you, City?
Well, that is Showmax. It gives you movies. It gives you local productions. It gives you sports. It also gives you documentaries. Goodness gracious me.
Yes.
It even gives you Crime and Justice.
Crime and Justice Season 2, now showing on Showmax. Just do 760 shillings subscription a month and you are able to access that. Season 1, Season 2, Crime and Justice. Good morning.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. Brought to you by Colgate.
You know, when you see someone being jailed, a governor or two or someone who stole, then people will fear. Because our problem is not the borrowing, it's the stealing.
We've become actually a nation of thieves. The only thing we lack is an opportunity to steal.
The guys who quote the Bible and say, I'm a Christian and all that, and you know they're thieves. Return what you have stolen 4 times. If you know that you have property or anything that you have stolen, just return and say, my God does not allow me to hold stolen things.
We are also a reflection of you, because you elect us. You know, we don't get into our office by ourselves. We are a reflection of the people who elect us.
We don't want to go to the streets. We have a constitution that enables us, assert our will.
When the legislature are now being taken as hostage by the executive for whatever reason,
We are now bound by what they want us to do.
This is just outside the realms of reality. We have impunity written into the DNA of our political class.
How old were you when you learned that Jeshi Lokop is Jeshi la Wokovu?
I can't say it very well. Well, you must watch this, look up.
And everyone knows. Okay.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
The rain continues in parts of Nairobi at 18. We'll see highs of 22 and lows of 15. At 17 degrees, Nakuru, mostly cloudy today. Highs of 22 and lows of 15. 14 will be the low in Nyeri, where it's raining at 17. Highs of 22 and rain showers have started in Eldoret again at 17. Highs of 21 and lows of 13. It's wet in Mombasa as well at 26. Highs of 31, and we'll see highs of 31 in a rainy Malindi as well, currently at 28. Partly sunny conditions at 20 in Kisumu, highs of 26 and lows of 19. While in Kakamega, it's raining at 20, highs of 25 and lows of 15. Looking at rainy conditions at 23 in Kampala, highs of 24 and lows of 19. While Dar es Salaam is raining as well at 26, we'll see highs of 29 and lows of 24. Looking at a cloudy morning in Johannesburg at 10, highs of 19 and lows of 9, while Lagos now is raining at 23. The continent got the memo, highs of 30, and we'll see highs of 32. Now in a sunny Kinshasa at 23, that'll be today's low.
Welcome to Spice FM, the best exclusive radio station bringing you the best mix of the best music ever.
All right, we're looking at still some traffic in many parts of the city today. Looks really messy. Coming off Mombasa Road, in and outbound traffic right around that Imaradaima Hill and drop. And that'll continue for some time. Airport Road, Southern Bypass, just after that Likoni interchange. And then going in that direction, a little bit of traffic in and outbound just after that bridge. Uhuru Highway still continues to do the thing as it does on Langata Road, really slow today. Rilo Dinga Way taking off some of that traffic, and what we have is bumper-to-bumper action all the way to the City Mortuary roundabout, connecting with Gong Road and then going further in that direction. The western part of the city is an absolute mess today. Whether you're looking at going in through Chiromo, Ring Road, Westlands, Dennis Pritt, State House, Kileleshwa, that whole area, traffic, and more traffic. Waiaki Way, also a mess. Use the Red Hill Link Road. It's not too crazy, at least for now. Let's keep an eye on things. The Thika Superhighway also still giving off those back-to-back, bumper-to-bumper vibes. We'll keep an eye on that as well. SpiceFM KE, help us out here. That My Mahu thing is still doing the business. 3 hours in and still a lot of traffic. We'll keep an eye on that for you as well. Text 40127.
Sugar and spice and everything nice.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
25 to 9, Kenya's biggest conversation. It continues. Eric Latiff, Okoh, CT Muga, and former National Assembly Speaker Francis Ole Kaparo, who joins us on Video Link. We are talking about his memories and his tribute to former President Mwai Kibaki.
Bwana Kaparo, with an eye on Parliament, as we're looking at how things were run, looking at the time of former President Kibaki, would you say that Parliament was beholden to the executive, or that, as we have been given many examples, once the president said, here's your job, do it, people were allowed to go ahead and do what they needed to do? Did Parliament do its job of oversight, legislation and representation, or was there some kind of attitude of being beholden to the executive?
Well, let me just repeat what I said earlier, that President Kibaki truly believed in and respected Parliament, a place he was almost more than half his life. And you also recall that when Greenhorns brought a little trouble as he was debating, his common response was, we have been here. He respected Parliament immensely. Not one day, not one single day did he ever call me a speaker complaining about the activities of Parliament. And at that time, as I said, there were many, many funny issues involving the House. There were issues of Anglo-leasing, there were issues of the Aturu brothers. Subsequently, of course, there was that division of government heading towards the referendum of 2000, I believe, 2005 or 2006. He never interfered. And I can also say, as the person holding the position then, Parliament executed its mandate to the fullest. I will also go back and say, even during the tenure of President Mwai Kibaki, and as you know, he was a very strong person. I always made sure that the executive never, and I repeat never, hampered what Parliament was supposed to do in the execution of its mandate. I also remember at some stage when the Honorable Kimunya was Minister of Finance, and I believe it was during the Anglo-leasing saga, and he was unwilling or unable to give a satisfactory answer to Parliament, and showed some disrespect to Parliament. I ordered him not to contribute in the Parliament until such time as he respected the House, and I kept to that very strongly. And the Honorable Care, I think, executed that mandate until he came to apologize to the House. So that was what it was. And that is, I believe, what should be, that Parliament must execute its mandate to bring to account the executive, because that is the prime reason why you have Parliament in the first place. If Parliament cannot and will not bring the executive to account for its deeds or misdeeds, then it loses the very reason why it exists.
So you served as the head of an arm of government when Mwai was in State House and then when Kibaki was in State House. How would you compare the Mwai State House to the Kibaki State House as a head of an arm of government?
Well, the Mwai State House was very busy. It was always busy. There were always many people visiting, ministers, MPs, ordinary citizens, and the like. Mwai Kibaki's State House was quite private. You hardly got mobs there. Very rare did you get mobs there. People were allowed or ordered to do their job from their offices, and not just to litter around this.
Of course, there was also the issue of looking at the accusations in the first couple of years of the Kibaki presidency that, he has come in and because of the fallout of the Bomas constitutional talks, which members of parliament were delegates of the constitutional conference, that because of the mismanagement of the members of parliament associated with the government then, Kibaki was then accused of, perpetrating tribalism and all. Did you witness that? What was your view at that point when everybody else was talking about, okay, so this Kibaki presidency has let out the dreams of the country and we are back to tribal politics?
Well, first of all, let's also put everything in perspective. You will all remember, if you went back to your records and history, you'll find out that the Honorable Mwai Kibaki became president on a wheelchair. He had been involved in an accident just before the election. So he became president sick, physically sick, on a wheelchair. Subsequent to that, he also had a major stroke, and he was hospitalized for a while. And because of the stroke, he had also lost a fair amount, I believe, of his faculty. A lot of people around him took to managing political affairs and government, and maybe they did so with inexperience, and maybe also with some vindictiveness. And that played out in Bomas. For a while, I attended Bomas, and subsequently I got out of it when I realized that it was becoming too partisan. And because finally that document would come to the House, or the debate arising out of it will come to the House, I thought it was not right for me to continue participating in a very divisive activity, which will finally come to the House, and I would be required to make an impartial ruling on it. And therefore, I agree that there were some people who took advantage of those two instances, particularly the second, when the president suffered a stroke, to run government the way they wanted. And in doing so, because of their inexperience, they made a couple of mistakes, or several mistakes. And I can also tell you, when NAC took over power in 2002, for the first 6 months, we had a government that was acting like the opposition. And we had an opposition that was timid, thinking it was still in government because it was being accused of all the ills that ailed Kenya. And therefore, we had a situation for 6 or 9 months where you didn't know who was government and who was opposition. That was how it was.
I think since the demise of former President Kibaki as well, Bwana Kapara, we've heard many times, just in this week alone, that there are many who felt that if, perchance he was given more time as president, that we would maybe have seen even better performance of the country at whatever level. Do you agree with this sentiment?
I do, but unfortunately, we couldn't go back to where we came from, where there was a perpetual presidency. It was good that we had term limits for president, and however good a president is, we must have an end to that reign so that we get somebody else. But yes, he did extremely well for the economy, for the infrastructure, and for bringing politics of hate down. The only unfortunate bit is that NAC inherited a country or a society that was very, very hopeful upon the election of NAC and therefore President Mwai Kibaki. And the Kenyans were extremely happy and hopeful people. And that was an occasion to unite our country. And that was the time that we could have killed tribalism altogether. That was also the time we could have tackled corruption completely. But unfortunately, none of the two was done. And therefore, a few years later, our society returned to normal, and we became the usual tribal thieving society, which is very unfortunate, and it could have been done so. But President Mwai, yes, he did extremely well, but no, he shouldn't have gone on beyond his term limit.
There are also those who argue that, yes, even with the powers that were given to the president at that particular point in our history, that the presidency is a little more complicated than what we ordinary citizens think, and that the president can't actually do what he wants to do. You've been close to power and you have had power. What do you say to this?
Well, let's face a few facts. Factor number one is that our society should be and ought to be a society governed by laws, not by whims of an individual. That's one. Number two, any person becoming president remains a human being. And as a human being, is subject to all human frailties. They can make mistakes, they can be biased, they can also favor and all those kind of things. So it is a very complicated thing, balancing the personal, balancing the law, balancing the public good. And there is also something called the unwritten law. What you think is right, even though it is not expressly provided by law. You must have the sixth or seventh sense to find out what is good for society, what is good for the country, beyond what is written and beyond what you are told.
Well, you put it very, very well indeed. But still, you've given us an academic perspective of the subject, but having been in power, what I'm getting at is simply this.
Can I just tell you this?
Please do.
I am not giving you an academic perspective. I'm telling you what I did as speaker. I had to say no, even though it's not written, if I thought it was in the best interest of our country. I'm telling you what I practiced.
I think in making this statement, you've actually answered my question more comprehensively, because that indicates that there were limits to what even the executive could do. Why I ask this question is because one of the things that one sees in our political scene is the current president, former, being blamed for literally anything that goes wrong in the country. And the underlying assumption is that the president has the power to set these things right, or the president has the power to make decisions that would set these things right. And I'm saying, yes, the president may have the ability and the power to do certain things, but not all the powers that we assume they have.
Exactly. You are absolutely right. And you are right because of this. Why do we make the statement that the government has three arms? It is because there are some functions solely preserved for the executive. There are others solely preserved for the legislature. And there are others solely preserved for the judiciary. And there is no one single arm of government that can do whatever it wishes independently. I think the three arms must be interdependent. And if one arm of government slackens or does something wrong, then you will accuse the president. For example, when the judiciary is unable or unwilling to decide matters on corruption, cases sent to parliament, to court by the executive on people who are accused of corruption, and those things continue forever, you will accuse the president of not being able to tackle corruption, and yet the president cannot judge those accused. It must be somebody else. What about if something else requires legislation and the National Assembly, or as the case now is, the Parliament, both the Senate and the legislature, are unable to execute the mandate? You will again accuse the president. But if the president tries to correct that situation and accuses, say, for example, the judiciary correctly of failing to do something that ought to be done, the natural response would be that the president is undermining the independence of the judiciary. And the same thing would happen if he took on head-on the legislature. He will be accused of undermining the independence of Parliament. So sometimes, you walk a tightrope. But in an ideal situation, everybody should be executing their mandate correctly and in the best interest of the country. I am not personally satisfied today that the other two arms of government are doing what they ought to do in the best interest of our country.
Okay, well, if we can go back to that time, Bonakaparo, and say that there were things that would mar the Kibaki presidency. And now we look at post-election violence, now which happened in his second term. And there were members of parliament who served with him in parliament in the first term. And we saw the terrible things that happened in the country. Many have castigated and said that he did not come out publicly in a manner in which he would ask the country to say, we are, we feel terrible for these things that have happened, but how can we find a way to move on? Did we see a situation? Did we see a situation where Parliament, for example, under your watch, would have been able to say, can we do something about this? This is one of the things that would mar his presidency 10 years down the line.
Well, I was Speaker under Kibaki presidency for one term, and that was 2002 to 2007. And the political violence arose, and the mismanagement of that election arose into end of 2007. Spilling to 2008. And therefore, I wasn't the speaker then. I was speaker before the event. But if you also will remember, that political violence came as a result of a disputed election. And the election results were announced a few days later. And once the election was announced, I ceased to be speaker. But yes, that was wrong. I mean, we should never, ever, ever do things on matters election that can arouse the public to dispute the results in a credible manner. I think the Electoral Commission must do its part, must be allowed to function the best way it can, and it must also do what it is in the best interest of the country. Yes, that election of 2007 marred the record of President Kibaki, and it must be a culmination of things done by, if I know Kibaki well, by people associated with him, and finally executed, and he being told this is the right thing. But I wasn't there. I really can't speak for him because I wasn't present when finally the decisions were made about the bungled election. But please, on record, I wasn't Speaker after that election.
Had you been, let's play in that space for a moment. Had you been seeing everything that had happened, what do you think would have been some of your sentiments then that would have been expressed publicly and would have been the rallying call in the House and also to your president?
Can I get that back again?
Yes. Let's play within that space for some time and say, had you been Speaker at that time, had you still been within the walls of Parliament, what would have been some of the things that you would have expressed publicly and then even asked of your president?
Well, it's very difficult to speculate. And also we must understand that the Speaker has no role in management of the election. And further, the Speaker has absolutely no role in resolving the dispute arising out of a disputed election. That the mandate of executing the election is with the Electoral Commission, and the resolving dispute is within the mandate of the judiciary. But I have a little experience on hostile politics arising out of hotly contested election, because I became Speaker in 1993 when the country went through a very hotly contested and hostile electioneering period, to the extent that when members of the House came to the House, and they were evenly divided, 100 for the opposition and 112 for the government, the members came to the House with a lot of bitterness and hatred to one another, to the extent that for almost half a year they were not speaking to one another. And it is the business of the Speaker to bring them together, and I tried the best I could to bring them together, and they indeed came together, and finally we had a functional parliament. And I believe even after 2008, heading forward after that violence in the Parliament, I believe also the Speaker should and ought to have bring the temperatures down. But you remember again, it was also very, 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 very hotly disputed, and it took the intervention of the international community to craft together what came to be known as the Grand Coalition Government.
That's true.
Which in effect meant a single party parliament. Again, it wasn't by law, but the Grand Coalition Government and therefore Parliament was a single party.
It brought everybody together. But as Speaker, thank you very much for speaking to us this morning, and thank you for sharing your thoughts, your sentiments, and your tributes to the former President Mwai Kibaki. We thank you very much. Next time, Bwana Speaker, we hope that you will be able to join us in the studio. We've invited you a number of times. We always thank you for speaking to us on the phone. Next one, utakuwa hapa ndani.
Asante, tutakuweko kama tutapata mafuta ya kutembea.
That's a good one.
Kama pia tunakuwa na sababu ya kuja Nairobi.
Yes.
Sababu huwezi kuja Nairobi kama huna kazi ya kuja kufanya.
Hata hii pia ni kazi.
Unakuja Nairobi kama kuna kazi ya kufanya, na kama hakuna unafanya bali iko.
Thank you. Have a lovely day. Thank you very much. Have a lovely day. It's 9:01 o'clock. A very good morning to you.
The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
Basi msanii working with the Education Department, village elders and security teams to ensure 100% transition to secondary school. Malindi called on children from poor background to apply for bursaries from relevant departments so that no one will be left out when the 4 months will be reporting to school. Now, 3 firms have teamed up to equip learners in Kenya with coding skills in a move aimed at enhancing digital literacy in the country. Under the partnership, Credit Bank, Microsoft Africa and Codris Africa will work together to promote use of Codris Africa Studio by students in Kenya, which will then be rolled out to the rest of Africa, as well as democratize technology in the continent to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. This comes on the backdrop of formal approval of a coding syllabus for primary and secondary schools in Kenya, which aims at teaching students how to develop computer program as the country seeks to increase skills pool needed to tap opportunities in the digital economy. And the High Court will today gave a ruling on a petition seeking to block former Nairobi Governor Mike Sonko from running for gubernatorial position in Mombasa County. Sonko, through his lawyers Jared Mogolo and Vincent Omolo, said that the High Court has no jurisdiction to make a decision on whether he is eligible to run for governor or not, saying the IEBC has that authority. It should be noted that his Wiper Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka approved Sonko to run for governor in Mombasa County. In a case filed by 2 Kenyans, Ndoro Kayuga and George Odhiambo, they insist that Sonko does not qualify to hold public office after being ousted from office on corruption charges. Judge John Mativo will give further directions on the case today. It will be remembered that the IEBC had earlier stated that it will not bar candidates from running for office during the August 9th general elections on the basis that in 2013, President Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy William Ruto ran for office despite the cases they had at the ICC over the 2007-2008 post-election violence. The Office of the Director of Public Prosecution has also stated that it will not bar candidates from running for office on the grounds that other cases may be politically motivated, hence an injustice to the accused. Now, a section of Narok traders and religious leaders want leaders to refrain from abusive language during this electioneering season to avoid causing tension in the country. The leader said it was the responsibility of every politician to ensure whatever messages they were preaching to their followers in their campaign rallies did not breach the cohesion and integration in the country. Led by a renowned trader, Hussein Ahmed, they lamented that their businesses would be severely affected in case of tension in the country, hence calling on politicians to preach peace. His sentiments come at a time when Emurua Dikir Member of Parliament Johanna Ngeno has been on the spot for uttering unprintable words against Governor Samuel Tunai while in his campaign rallies. Ahmed called for the speedy investigation of the utterances to ensure they do not bring chaos or divisions in the county. And the European Union has warned Russia it will not bend to blackmail over its support for Kyiv after the Kremlin cut off gas supplies to Bulgaria and Poland. The warning came ahead of UN Chief Antonio Guterres arriving in Kyiv to meet Ukrainian leader Volodymyr Zelensky following talks with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Moscow. This is Newsweb. Dennis Sasseto. Good morning.
.4 Spice FM.
Okay, still traffic in most parts of the city, wherever you want to look at it. It looks like the bypasses are going to be the escape routes for folks this morning. So you might want to think about that. Eastern, Southern, Red Hill, coming out of Westlands, because Uhuru Highway is jam-packed from beginning to end. And we're looking at Langata Road, which started really early. That still continues. Lunga, in and outbound traffic. Likoni, in and outbound traffic. Jogo Road, in and outbound traffic. Let's see how many times we can sing this song. And we're going all the way, coming in from the Thika Superhighway, just past Survey, Kiambu Road, in and outbound. Limuru Road, doing the same thing. Now, whatever is happening between Wangari Maathai Way and Ring Road Westlands, and then Chiromo there, it's traffic. That's what it is. Let's just keep an eye on things. That Maimahi Road area situation, we're going to check what's happening in a short while, but it doesn't look pretty at all. Heading out of the city for the long weekend, it might seem that your plans might be delayed just a smidgen until that is sorted out. Let's hear from you, just in case you know what's going on there. Let us know if it's looking better now. Talk on SpiceFM KE on Twitter, text 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
It is 8 minutes after 9. Good morning. How are you doing? Happy closing day. We are going on to half-term, the entire country. Today is like a Friday. Tomorrow, beginning of half-term, into Saturday, Sunday, Monday,
It's not
Tuesday.
just students, it's family half-term.
Yes.
Children are on half-term, parents are also on half-term.
Everybody. This country should be disbanded and everyone will go home. It came to pass. Everybody has gone home.
We sent everybody home.
Yes. Stay at home. Okay, CT, the day's proverb.
When all men say you are a dog, it's time to bark.
When all men say you are a dog, it's time to bark.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Salala.
If many say something about you, they must be right. It must be true.
Well, there must be something they have seen. Yes. So, if people assume that you are a generous person,
yes,
play the part.
Yeah.
Ukiitwa msimiwa, mheshimiwa.
I got it. Act like one.
Act like one.
I know.
Ground bado ni yako.
Ground ni yako. Even if it may shift later.
And
but for that particular but for that particular moment in time, it is yours.
Ground ni yako. Chama mekunyuma nomination.
What?
Chana na chama.
Move.
Watu ndio wanaamua.
Back on the other side.
Watu. What? Shock. The Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission has drafted a missive to political parties, dated the 27th of April 2022, to all registered political parties, and a letter signed by the chairman of the IEBC, Wafula Chebukati. The headline of this letter: Implementation of the two-thirds gender principle in light of the decision in the High Court petition of 2017, Katiba Institute versus the IEBC. And the IEBC is saying the import of the judgment in that is that all political parties must take measures to ensure actualization of the two-thirds gender principle during nominations for the 290 constituency-based elective seats for members of the National Assembly and 470 county-based elective positions for members of the Senate. You are hereby reminded that all political parties participating in the upcoming general election must comply with the existing statutory obligations and ensure that all lists of nominated candidates for the 290 constituency-based elective positions for members of the National Assembly and 47 county-based positions for the Senate must comply. The following shall apply. This is what the IEBC is saying. Number 1. In the event a political party presents a list of 290 candidates for elective positions in the constituencies, no more than 193 candidates can be of the same gender. Tumeelewana? So say you're a political party, name one. Wiper. And you take a list that you have nominated people in every constituency in the country. Every constituency. At least 1/3 of them must be women. Now let's talk about the practical reality. What we're talking about here. Must be of the same gender. You cannot have more than 193 men.
Do you?
Okay.
Neither can you have more than 193 women.
Neither can you have more than 193 women. But we know what we are saying. It's
Yes,
the men.
yes.
So if you're Wiper, you're Jubilee, you're ODM, you are UDA, you are PA, you are what's the one for the Meru governor?
Ombaso.
There's the other one for the Laikipia governor, PNU. The other one for the Muranga governor?
God Almighty.
The Cow Party. All those parties. If you have nominated members to the National Assembly, 290 of them, 193 is the maximum that can be of the same gender. Number 2, if a political party takes 47 nominated senators across the country for seats, not more than 31 can be of the same gender. There we are together?
Yes, sir.
Number 3, which is now where it applies mostly. In the event a political party presents a list including less than 290 candidates for constituency-based elective positions, the 2/3 gender principle will still apply for the number of names presented.
Sorry, come again.
WIPA.
Mm-hmm.
The first instance was where WIPA conducted nominations across the 290 constituencies, and WIPA has candidates across the 290 constituencies. Not more than 193 can be men. Second scenario, WIPA does not have candidates in all the constituencies. WIPA has candidates in 40 constituencies. In those 40, a third must be women.
Okay.
You got it?
Got it.
If you have less than a third of women in those 40 that you're bringing, I'll tell you what happens. Same thing for Senate. UDA. You have senators that you've nominated, not in all counties. Let's say you have candidates in 30 counties. Okay? In those 30 counties, at least 10 must be women candidates.
Okay.
Are we together so far?
Yes.
So here is in the event. In the event a nomination list does not comply with the 2/3 gender requirement, the Commission will reject the list and will communicate the rejection in writing to the party. The Commission will provide the political party an opportunity to revise this list and resubmit the revised list to the Commission within 48 hours. Note that a revised list does not if the revised list does not comply with the 2/3 gender principle, it will be rejected in its totality, and all the candidates in this list cannot stand for election. Are we together now?
Yes.
You are UDA. You have given nomination certificates for senators. Not in all 47 counties, in 30 counties. If 10 of those are not women candidates, can you rectify this within 48 hours? If you don't, none of your candidates is going to vie.
You will not, yes, do?
I have a question.
Ask a question.
Yes, please.
Yes, you there at the back.
Please.
Yes.
Thank you.
Stand up and speak loudly.
Yes, sir. Now, this paper, this documentation that came out that we saw now yesterday, today, were they aware of it before?
Everybody was aware of it.
They were aware. So this one that we're giving is just a reminder.
Yep.
Okay. So as they bring it out now, or because more or less nominations are out for parties across the board, by and large, it's been done.
Yes.
So nobody should now come and start crying tomorrow if they find out that these requirements, 30%, etc., they've not met the threshold. Because IEBC will chuck you out the window.
Did you say that nobody should come and cry?
And now, because that's why, did you hear the first question I asked?
This was a ruling in 2017.
Very good.
All parties, remember we've even had this conversation here with Edwin Sifuna, the Secretary General of ODM, and asked him, you remember there's a ruling of the High Court that you as political parties, you should be playing a role here to make sure that when you are presenting your candidates, there will be gender balance. And he said, yes. Now, IEBC came with the dates and said, between this time and this time, conduct your nominations. At this point, bring your nominees to IEBC for clearance. Now, IEBC just went, by the way, remember.
Be knowing
that ruling
applies here.
And we are enforcing that ruling. We have been told that if you come, you're a political party, you have 10 candidates for MP across the country. If a third of them are not women, none of them will be allowed to vie in the election.
Meaning, if you don't comply, you'll have nullified yourself.
Yes.
All of you together.
Kiududo, wholesale.
Yote.
Nyote. Inje. I love this.
There was a picture, and I found the number. I thought it was 1,742. It's actually 1,745. This is just an example of the nomination certificates that UDA has issued. 1,745 aspirants around the country have received nomination certificates from UDA.
Right.
Now,
How many parliamentary?
270 parliamentary candidates, 43 for the Senate, 1,341 for ward representatives, 45 for woman representative, and 42 for governor hopefuls.
Okay, so
Now,
we deal with this
from
one.
these
We deal
numbers-
with National Assembly and Senate. 'Cause
270.
The rule is the law. I mean, the ruling of the High Court was on National Assembly and
National
Senate.
Assembly and Senate. So essentially, we are saying
270 for National Assembly.
So 90 of them.
Let me open calculator.
So
Just to be
270
sure.
divided by 3.
Yeah, we want to make sure that the calculator is the one that is showing us.
Okay. 270 divided by 3 is what?
It is, of course, 90, but we want it to be written
You
on
want
the
it to be
calculator.
written with digital numbers.
Yes.
It's all right.
Mm.
So 90 of them at least must be. Huh?
Women.
90 of them must be women.
How many Senate?
43.
43
Divided
divided
by
by 3 is 14.3 must be women.
So at least
15.
a third of somebody must be a woman.
Yes.
However you want to look at it.
15 must be women.
90 for members of
90
parliament.
for members of parliament. This is UDA.
This is just UDA.
UDA's 270 nominees to run for member of National Assembly. They must have 90
They
women.
must have issued certificates to at least 90 women from the 270.
Right.
If they have not, then there's a problem. They must have issued certificates of nomination to at least 15 women for the positions of Senate. If they have not, then there's a
All
problem.
of them
All
out.
of them will go home. Right?
Right.
So essentially, don't you see this is a bit of a bomb that's being
I
thrown in the middle of
love
things?
I love. Now, here the question though: is it practical?
Yes.
Was it practical to require political parties to do this? Was it practical to expect that political parties will get to this position where you have this?
I see it as a conversation that has been rumbling for years, right?
Yeah.
By the time it got to the floor of the High Court, there's somebody who petitioned this thing and said, you know what? The only way to get this beyond a conversation where members of parliament are dithering about and there's no quorum today, there's no quorum tomorrow, there's this, that. The only thing is to make it legally binding on political parties to have this rule within the guidelines. High Court said, actually, you know what? We agree with you.
Yes.
Now, we've given the ruling. As you people are nominating, so that you're pushing these people to the buffet table, as it were, make sure that they are part of the selection. Because if we leave it up to you as members of parliament, you're not going to do it. So, from the very beginning, let's make sure that they're up for selection.
Yep.
This was 5 years ago.
Yep.
As is often the practice, there's some ignorance that comes into play. Oh, really? The High Court said so. It's ruling. Is it binding? Is it legal? Let's just do whatever it is that we want and just continue with the status quo. In this case, it seems as though you're not going to be able to get away with it. Is it practical? It is. Because, like I said, the dithering about that you have been doing for the last 15 years in terms of what you should do when it comes to gender representation, you have not done.
Chickens.
Somebody needs to hold your hand and say, do it.
Actually,
you want to ignore it? Sorry, you're not going to be given an opportunity to do it again.
You put it well, dithering, but it was direct. It was direct and deliberate sabotage, because the parliamentarians we've had on this show and whom we've asked this question, I mean, when you listen and you hear, it's bizarre. When it's time to vote, people walk out.
Yeah.
On the
People
day you
suddenly
know
have
that
travelled.
people aren't there.
Yeah.
There is no quorum. I mean, repeatedly.
It's like a child who you put the food in front of them, you say eat. They say, okay, I'll eat. You go, you come back, they have not eaten. Okay. Come put food again, eat, they don't eat. So what do?
Take
You
the
station
food. somebody,
somebody, they take the spoon, put it in the mouth, swallow. You even massage the throat so that the food will go down. Is that what you need? That's what we'll do.
You know, political parties will now come and tell you, it would be unconstitutional for us to deny anybody the opportunity to express themselves and participate as a candidate in a political in an election.
We agree.
They'll come and tell you that.
We agree.
But you see, that's not what they've been told by the courts to do. They've been told by the courts, and this is the ruling of the court, the 2017 case, Katiba Institute versus IEBC. So, number one, that all political parties are bound by the provisions of Article 10, 19, 20, 27, 28, 56, 81B, 91, 1 of the Constitution, and any action undertaken by them, including nomination process for candidates for members of parliament, has to comply with the requirements of those provisions. Okay? Number 2, that an order was issued by the court directing political parties to take measures to formulate rules and regulations for purposes of actualizing the two-third gender principle during nomination for the 290 MPs and the 47 counties within 6 months from the date of that judgment. In default, the IEBC was to devise an administrative mechanism to ensure that the two-thirds gender principle was realized among political parties during nomination exercise for parliamentary elections. Unaona? IEBC is basically just following court order.
Yes.
Political parties should have followed court order. Within 6 months of that order, then, they were supposed to come up with their own regulations and mechanisms. How do we promote women candidates? How do we promote... We have seen political parties giving out direct tickets. You come and complain and you're told, you are Bahati, we have withdrawn your ticket.
So we can give it to this person.
So we can allow ODM guy to win.
Yeah.
That means the political parties could have come with their own internal rules and say, we are going to give affirmative action. We are going to give direct tickets to women.
We had Edwin Sufuna sit in this chair. We'll call him later today. And they said to us, you know what? We have... As we go around the country, there are young women who are coming up and we are making sure that we are putting them in the limelight.
Yes.
Now, if you can do that when you're having this engagement across the country, just as you're saying, if you can make it so evidently clear who your selection or who your preferred person is, you can do the same when it comes to a requirement by having women put in the front. You can do it. But there has been a reluctance, and I'm going to be as bold as to call it, there has been a reluctance to do it. Now, IEBC did not come up with something that they were...
It's not them who came up with it.
No. They did not sit somewhere and say, we're bored on a Tuesday afternoon. Let's remind these folks about something that we came up with. No. They're following what the courts have said. So we're just reminding you, in the event that this does not happen, we're just telling you that all of you, all, men or women or all, and their dog will not be allowed to participate in this thing. Just be prepared.
By the time something gets to court, it means there's a dispute. And you need an arbiter.
There was an issue.
Yes.
There was an issue at the point, and Katiba Institute rightfully went to court to say, look, there are all these provisions. How do we actualize these provisions? And the people that we want to say are the IEBC because they're the ones who clear. So IEBC were the respondents. And the court, first of all, said, yes, we have jurisdiction. Second, yes, this case has merit. Third, let's hear it. They heard, they listened, argument, counter-argument. They said, all right, clearly, Katiba Institute have an issue that they've raised here. Yes, true. There are all these provisions, articles of the Constitution. There's an obligation to political parties. There's an obligation to IEBC. Now, let's start with political parties. Come up with mechanisms now.
Do it now.
So that in future, you shall make sure that as you nominate candidates, you're meeting this threshold. And now, can you imagine if all political parties had candidates that at least meet this gender threshold? Then we are getting closer to getting women elected into parliament and meeting the quota.
Exactly.
Because we've presented women to the ballot.
And the thing is, I think, and also it's very easy to get caught up in the throes of this thing without looking very clearly at what they're saying. They're not saying have them elected by force, by fire. No. They're saying
present them
to the people. Let the people then make a choice if they feel that this woman or whomever else is the preferred choice. But give them a chance to be on the selected panel. Give them an opportunity to be selected. But as is often the case, you think that what the court has said is really of no merit or it really is not important. And that future you were talking about, guess what?
It's here.
Is here. It is here today. So many will say, is it fair? You will find many counter things coming up, flying about from today, saying, actually, did not give us prior notice, we're not unfair, blah, blah.
IBC are just trying to be busybodies.
My own Sha is that I hope that IEBC will hold hard and fast to this thing and not say, well, okay, in this case, let's try again in 2027. No. I really hope that they'll hold on to this thing and say, you know what? Let's have things done.
Come on, buyer. What is it? What is?
You know, one of the things that I always find fascinating is how politicians believe that just by the simple action of opening their mouths to speak, they can actually do whatever it is that they want. Because this really, would this be an issue if they had actually complied with this constitutional requirement? No. Would we be having this debate? No, we wouldn't.
Nope.
But we're having the debate because they had the power, they had the means to ensure this was done, and it was not done.
They could have done it on their own without being forced.
Yes.
They could have done it on their own.
But it is just as well they refused, because now we have clarity on the matter.
Yes.
We are not going to seek any more judicial perspective on this one. We already have it. And we know exactly what the law says. See, this argument that they're likely to come up with about, when it comes to constitutional right, you know something? This thing about constitutional rights, there is no constitutional right that is just independent of other rights.
Comes along with something.
Yes, exactly. You talk about the right of an individual. You cannot talk about it and divorce it from the right of a constitution. The right of, remember what I've said, constitution. Because that is why that document exists. It outlines those things for you. You as an individual, you as a community, you as everyone. Now, you cannot say that because now we think that this particular aspect is being abrogated, then this one now is diminished. It is not so. Eric, when you read it out, the clauses and the parts that actually lent itself to that decision, it wasn't one. There were many.
Yep.
Meaning they took into account and said, here we have constitution. This part, that part, this page, this chapter, this, all of it.
Yep.
So now, if you want to dispute it, you need to go back there and pick each of those one by one and tell us which one now you think.
Which one are you disputing with exactly?
Was there
Article
clause,
10, Article 19, Article 20, Article 27, Article 28, Article 56, Article 81B, and Article 91(1) of the Constitution binds political parties.
In this, was there a clause that you read? I may be a bit conflicted. That said, if they have received the nomination list from parties, and they find that you have actually not met this threshold, they've given you a window,
48
hours, right,
yes.
to
Meaning
come and do
2 days.
To bring now new.
So in 2 days,
nominations,
you can go and find a way you can play around your game. Okay. So you see, for example, this 270 by UDA. Okay, they have a window of 20. Yeah. So if say they have 70, out of these 270, they have 70 women, and they need 20. They can just go to their constituencies. They have not nominated anyone, and just dish out certificates.
Yes, they can.
Kill them doing lunch.
Certificates.
20. We have come, Mr. Chipkati. Okay, now to 90. A third of 90 will be out.
96.
You know,
96.
he's not going to ask you, so long as it meets that threshold. Many other questions won't be asked. But you've got the numbers.
Yes. So there's some time to fix your thing.
Whether you have actually, whether these are true members, whether you are just dishing out certificates to fill that, that's at this point, that's not the issue.
So and so, can we put your name as this and this? Yes, you can. Done.
Ndu, sinikupatia ticket ya Msambweni.
Ni sawa.
Exactly. City, can we give you Turkana North? Yes.
Sawa. Fill out. That is what now the parties are going to do.
They're going to do just to meet, so that they're not all tossed out. Yeah.
Yep.
But why must you have a sword aiming at your neck?
But isn't it a little bit painful?
For you to do what you know you needed to do in the... I mean, must.
Pointed at you, gun pointed at your head, really, for you to do what you ought to do. And but then there's a problem with that. Because here, as you say, everybody now, you're going to start dishing out so you can meet this threshold.
Yes.
These fellas couldn't give a toss whether they're women or not who are represented. They don't care. You think they're thinking about this representation gender-wise? Meet the number and then let's
that's
move.
true.
Yeah.
The painful bit is that
That's
we
the
have not
painful
seen
part.
political parties actually going out and actively
pushing for this gender equality.
No, they don't.
They don't.
As you say correctly, they don't give a toss. Not really.
Let's take a break and then we will pick your calls as we come out of this break. 0719012600. Is it practical that political parties actually comply with the 2/3 gender rule when presenting nominees for MP and for Senate to IEBC in coming days? Is it practical or is it not? Remember, 760.
I know the numbers flying in your head right now.
A third of 760.
It's a third.
760 shillings per month. Showmax, you get City?
Crime and justice.
What you're going to be doing for the next 6 days.
Yes.
Local production, riveting, full of suspense.
Now that you'll be on half term.
Now that everybody's on half term,
by
you have
the
an opportunity
way.
to change channels as you see fit.
Yeah.
If you're tired of watching movies, sports. If you're tired of sports, documentary. If you don't want to watch a local
You
production,
can binge on Crime and Justice from
telenovela.
Telenovela.
That one. Yes. Soap opera.
Until Kenya opens.
Yes.
27 minutes to 10.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. Brought to you by Colgate.
No, this wheelbarrow. How can you give people wheelbarrow? His party symbol is an umbrella. Is he distributing umbrellas in Makueni?
Have you been told if we don't lock between 10 to 4, this is what we're saving?
You try and call them, the same person who was in your house every day, because they know you are influential and you will give them votes. Call them after 1 month and see if they'll pick up their phone.
Don't tell your member of parliament that you want him to come and build a school, you want him to come and do a hospital. That is not the work of the member. Now that we have devolution in this country, these resources should go to those devolved units.
You have to have strong, independent institutions. And you have to have police who has the right to take the biggest town in the country and question, why did you do this and that, and send them to court if necessary.
Joel in Kericho, good morning.
Salama sana Eric, habari ya asubuhi.
Salama kabisa. Mbunge wako ni nani?
Anaitwa Silvanus Martin, hapa ni Ainamoi.
Silvanus Martin, Ainamoi.
Yes. Sasa ile juma namwambia yeye nini? Amalize aende.
Oh, wow.
Asante sana.
That's it. It's dried up just a little bit in Nairobi, but we're going to see that light rain continuing through most parts of today. Nairobi, 18 will be currently what it is. 22 will be the high, lows of 15. Mostly cloudy at 19 in Nakuru, highs of 22 and lows of 15. It's raining in Nyeri at 18, highs of 22. We'll see highs of 21 in a mostly cloudy Eldoret. And we're seeing rain continuing in Mombasa at 27, highs of 31 and lows of 25. Malindi also raining. It's at 29 now. We'll see highs of 31. And at 22, the sun is out in Kisumu. We'll see highs of 26 and lows of 19, while Kakamega continues with rain showers at 24 with highs of 25 and lows of 15. Kampala still rainy morning at 23, highs of 24 and lows of 19. And it's raining in Dar es Salaam as well at 26. We'll see highs of 29. Mostly cloudy conditions in Johannesburg at 11, 19, going to that high and lows of 9. While Lagos is mostly sunny now at 23. We'll see highs of 30. 32 will be the high in now a sunny Kinshasa, currently at 24. It's partly sunny at 15 in China, Beijing specifically. 16 will be the high and lows of 7, while it's sunny in Paris at 10, going to highs of 22. We'll see a lower high of 16 in a mostly cloudy London, currently at 9, and inching closer and closer to Thursday. New York is cloudy at 5. We'll see highs of 13 and lows of 4.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM.
All right, so it still continues, and we're looking at heavy traffic along Uhuru Highway all the way through to the Haile Selassie Junction, and that continues. Imara Daima on Mombasa Road, in and outbound traffic, still some there. Not to forget, easy escape is the southern bypass. You want to get onto that Likoni interchange and then find your way from there. Jogo Road, that whole circuit, Jogo Road, Lunga, joining with Likoni and then onto Lusaka. Still some traffic there. It's not letting up on Langata Road today. It's inching further and further away from the Timor roundabout into the city. Very slow traffic coming off Mombasa Road. Coming off of Thika Superhighway still continues. It's easing up on Kiambu Road but still remains heavy as you get to the Muthaiga Square. Looks like we're going to be in traffic hour a bit longer today. Keep an eye on things through the day. Talk to us on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
Business news on Spice FM.
Good morning. I am Stephanie Wangari. The price of beer and spirits is set to go up if the National Treasury effects proposals to raise the excise tax on alcoholic products. East African Breweries Limited CEO Jean Karuku termed the tax changes contained in the current financial bill disastrous, saying they would reduce consumption, fuel the growth of illicit liquor, and also deny the exchanger more revenue. Karuku termed the move as counterproductive as it was coming on the back of COVID-19, rising inflation and other crises such as fuel shortage and the Ukraine-Russia war. Nairobi's Hilton Hotel will close its doors indefinitely on December 31st and lay off an unspecified number of workers. The hotel, which is owned 40.57% by the government, has pointed to other factors beyond COVID-19 for the planned closure. The hotel said it will redeploy some staff to hotels within its Hilton portfolio in Nairobi. Hilton has been in operations for more than 50 years at the heart of the central business district. Now, Sharia Sacco Society plans to build a mixed-use development in Upper Hill, Nairobi, valued at 3.33 billion shillings. It joins an increasing number of SACCOs that have ventured into real estate. The project will be financed through off-plan selling of the units to the members for 90 days before the groundbreaking of the tower. Members' investment will earn an interest of up to 10% until the groundbreaking date. A minimum deposit for allocation of a unit will be 20% of the selling price of the unit. However, those who deposit 50% and above the selling price will get a discount of 10%. That's your business news. I'm Stephanie Wangari.
Business news, keeping you up to date on all your money matters. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
20 minutes to 10. The conversation continues. Eric Latiff, Okoh, CT, Muga. IEBC has written to all registered political parties in the country in a letter dated yesterday and signed by the IEBC chairman, Wafula Chebukati, reminding them that in 2017, an institute called Katiba Institute went to court and they were seeking clarification on a couple of issues, 1, 2, 3, mambo mbili tatu like this. It was basically on the role of political parties and the role of the IEBC in ensuring that the two-third gender rule is met in Parliament. This is the National Assembly and the Senate. And the court found that, number one, political parties have an obligation in the nomination of members to the National Assembly and the Senate. Number two, the IEBC has an obligation in clearing candidates to the National Assembly and the Senate. And so the orders were, number one, that political parties were within 6 months of the ruling to begin implementing or coming up with their own modalities of how they are going to promote and encourage and then nominate more women to seek elective posts into National Assembly and the Senate, such that by the time we are getting into this election, we have at least 1/3 of candidates being women. IEBC was also told that you must ensure that this is carried out. And if it's not, then you cannot clear candidates who do not meet this threshold from the political parties. So the IEBC has just written to the political parties and told them, now, listen, if you come with a list of 290 people bearing your nomination certificates, at least 1/3 of them must be women. If you come with whatever number less than 290, at least 1/3 of them must be women. Same applies to 47 for the Senate or any other number below 47. At least 1/3 of the people who come here bearing your nomination certificate for member of the National Assembly or member of the Senate must be women. If you do not meet this requirement, we'll give you 48 hours to go and play around with your games, whatever you want to do to meet this. If you don't, then none of the candidates that bear your certificate shall be cleared to contest on August 9th. Now, the question that we're asking is this a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Is it practical that we are going to see political parties actually meeting this requirement?
It's absolutely a good thing. It's 100% practical. It's about time somebody got these guys to sit up and look, even if, and this is interesting, because even if it doesn't achieve the results in the manner in which you hope it would, whereby we're saying that sentiment that lies latent, saying, well, it defeats the purpose because they're only going to do this for the purposes of meeting threshold, not that they're really interested in gender representation. Okay, however, if it is going to make them meet the threshold, fine. Use that as an opportunity so that the next time, guess what? It's going to be in their purview. So they understand we actually need to do this thing in this manner. And that's the thing about affirmative action, that essentially you force a situation and then later you begin to see the benefits of it.
Yep.
Force it, you see the benefits of it, and then it becomes a way of life.
Yep.
So if this is the avenue through which it needs to happen, well and good. Let it happen that way. If it's going to make some people end up with egg on their face or go back to the drawing board, let it happen. Let it happen.
Dr. Omar in Kilifi, good morning.
Morning. How are you, Mr. Eric?
Salama kabisa, ujambo.
Mzuri sana. Ndu, how are you?
Very fine, thank you, sir.
Thank you. CT, I hope your morning was brilliant.
Super.
Thank you. So, first of all, let me take this opportunity to pass my condolences to the family of the late President Kibaki.
Yep.
Second, I would like to request next time to add a small segment of traffic in Mombasa. I have now moved from Kilifi to Mombasa.
Good. You'll be the source.
Thank you very much. So for this point, whether it is practical or not, I have two things to say. First of all, will IEBC really take these political parties to the book? Will they throw the book at them? Will they throw the law at them? You know, in the problem in Kenya, court orders are usually disregarded with impunity. Hello?
Yes.
So who will hold them to task? Who will enforce these laws? If
IEBC breaches the law, I mean the order of the court,
yes,
then the court should hold them in contempt.
Because every single time we've seen officials of government, they've given court orders here and there, and they breach it with impunity. So the practicality depends with, do IEBC really have the grit and the teeth to say, no, this is not going to happen? Secondly, what is the underlying issue that IEBC is trying to reach by saying 1/3 gender, the gender rule? If it's like cheating the system when they say what a dish out, no. The whole purpose is that we want to promote and elect women into elective posts, isn't it?
Yes.
But if they're just going to dish out and at the end of the day elections happen and people go back to parliament,
it defeats the purpose. You think it just defeats the purpose?
I think it's like cheating the system. I think it defeats the purpose. You see, because to be honest, it doesn't make sense to me. This is a democracy.
Yeah.
When you enforce something in a democracy, it beats the purpose of it being a democracy, isn't it? I'm supposed to elect who I want. I'm not supposed to be enforced and told the only person you can elect in this constituency is a woman.
No, she's not the only one. She's just being made part of the selection. She's not the only one. It would be different if they said only women will be presented here. But in this case, we are saying give an opportunity for the choice to be made of a woman. So put her among the rest. Put her among the rest. Do not make her the sole option, but make her one of the options.
For example, if I reside in Nyeri now,
Yep.
and say my party is UDA.
Yes.
And they're fronting, one of the people they're fronting is Muhammad Ali in the nominations, yeah?
Right.
And then they also front some other lady, but we all in the nominations nominate Muhammad Ali.
Right.
So then what happens? If such a scenario happens where they've been put forth, but they've not been nominated by the people.
What should have happened should have started out much earlier in promoting that other woman and promoting her and elevating her in terms of her visibility to the electorate, to the party members in Nyali constituency, such that she will become an option. If not this time, next time. You see, Muhammad Ali is a very ambitious man. The next time he wants to be governor of Mombasa.
True.
And so there will be a position for this woman who has been known throughout, who's been working for the party throughout, to be the next person then who is nominated by the UDA members in Nyeri to be the candidate.
So
it's a journey of 1,000 miles, I think.
Okay, so this election, at this moment, it doesn't realize its function, yeah?
In Nyali. It
Not just
may
Nyali,
do so in Nairobi. You get my point, but thank you. I hear what you're saying. Does it serve the purpose or does it defeat the purpose? Let's hear what others are thinking as well. Anthony in Mombasa, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Very well, thanks.
Okay, I'll support the sentiments that have been made that, once you make it compulsory for people, for you to have a one third, you defeat the purpose for democracy as a whole. But what I can suggest is this: why doesn't IEBC, okay, now that it's too late, but have a sort of referendum, whereby the question is, in this county, in every county, we are going to select one constituency that will be reserved for ladies. Now, let the population in that county decide which constituency will be reserved for a lady. So the decision will come from the people. So the questions will be, for example, if it is Mombasa, Vita, Kisauni, Jomvu, it's not a name, but a constituency. So when you go there, you tick Jomvu, you tick Mvita, you tick whichever one you want. Then by the end of the day, we'll say the people from Mombasa County have decided Jomvu constituency will be reserved for a lady. And let it be replicated in all 47 counties.
But you see, everything that you've said there, Anthony, it can be done by the members of ODM in Mombasa County who decide that for all the MPs that we want to elect in Mombasa County or nominate in Mombasa County, X county shall have a woman candidate. So you don't have to force it on Wiper. So ODM, you can decide we want women candidates in Nyali, and Wiper can decide we want woman candidate in Jomvu. UDA can decide we want a woman candidate in Mvita.
But what we want is, let it not be a responsibility for the political party. It is supposed to be the responsibility of the population. As well as even if they could have increased just one question in this coming election, apart from all the presidential, all the seats, the last sheet is you are selecting that come 2027.
X constituency will be reserved for women candidates.
Select people from this county, kindly select, so that by the time the MPs are sworn in, there's one will know if he's a male. I can't buy for to come back because my constituency has been selected by the people. Because when you put it, it's a party decision. It will take forever.
Okay, we hear you. Thank you, Anthony.
Okay, thank you.
Good day, Zachary.
Oh, good morning. Good morning, people.
Good morning.
Oh, I welcome our Guka there. Mr. Morimandro, how is you?
I'm very well, thank you, Zachary.
Oh, yesterday
Zachary
we had
Wawarembo,
to-
how are you
well,
today?
I'm okay, and you were told yesterday that you had to attend to matters of national importance, yeah?
That was the general idea, yes.
Oh, that's very good, and I hope everyone there is good. And very quickly, let me say this, Mr. Eric, and I have said it again and again, and mark my words and points, yeah?
Yes.
Being a woman is not a disability, okay? That one you know. And for that, some of us who have been dealing with women here outside here on the ground have actually come to prove that women are the strongest together. Let me tell you that. This idea of one consensus, that is you, some two people or three people, and they are deciding this guy is the one who are going to give the certificate, yeah? They are killing the spirit and the letter of democracy. You hear I'm speaking like somebody who is presenting a paper somewhere.
Yes.
Point 2. Remember, the electorate, now me on the ground, has got the mandate that if we feel that we elected Du or Eric or Marimandro and he is not delivering, we are supposed to recall that person. You see, there is not a provision.
There is.
Now, if this person, we feel that, okay, this was given a nomination without a participation, and then we got to recall him or her, he has got the reason to tell us, you guys, what are you saying? You never elected me. You never chose me. Okay? This was, my position was decided by so and so, and therefore I owe allegiance to them. Now, another point. I think women are the majority voters. Go to any polling station, and I would want some people there out there, the non-governmental organizations, to start this idea of going to, okay, how many women have come to this polling station? How many men? You will find that at any given polling station, women are the majority. Okay? Why don't they decide to, okay, we are going to elect women, our fellow women? Why don't they do so? So I actually do not buy this idea of consensus. I do not buy this idea of saying that my God, Mr. Eric, let me tell you, if you come here on the ground, probably you want to approach some ladies out there. You'll find that they will give you so many conditions. And you who empowered these people? They are giving us problems down here because they are empowered, they are clever, they know they are what, okay?
Okay, Zachary, we hear you.
This idea of making women, be
affirmative action is misplaced, basically.
Nah, that's a fake. Not after 60 years of independence. No.
Good day.
Thank you and have a nice day.
You too. Nelson in Mombasa.
Eric, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Mwalimu, salamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam baba, uko mzima?
Uko mzima, sijui nawe.
Mimi nashukuru.
Okay, now I want to ask something.
Salimia Ndu.
Du, how are you, my sister?
Fine, thank you. How are you?
You look good, though.
Thank you. Where did you see me?
Now, supposing mwalimu, you want to, uko na tamaa ya kula samaki leo. You want to eat fish today. But then somebody tells you, now, let's eat the fish today, then you can eat the fish tomorrow. So today, just take a mango and get satisfied. Would that be fair, democratically? Because njaa ya samaki uko nayo leo. Now, this idea of something related to what we are saying. You are being told, somebody chooses for you who is supposed to stand in that particular constituency. And then the other thing that baffles me, Eric, is if me, like a voter, if I want to contest as an MP or MCA, I'm to contest where I am a voter. But this other idea of somebody contests in Nairobi, then just moves to Mombasa, next time moves to Mandera. Does it mean this particular person now is registered in all those constituencies, or what happens? Because now if I'm a voter in Nairobi and I'm contesting in Mombasa, so that means I won't vote for myself.
Yeah, that's what it means.
Isn't that the... Yeah.
That's what it means. But I think on the issue of, whether you have been forced to only take one item called fish, that's not what the courts are saying. The courts are saying that you, as the person who's running a restaurant and you're called a political party, you should look towards, as you're opening your restaurant in the morning at 5 a.m., your clients will come for dinner from 6 o'clock. Do your best to make sure that you provide a wide array on the menu. Have fish on many types of fish. Have mutton, have beef, have camel milk, meat, have crocodile, whatever, right? As long as it's classified as a food item. That is what they were being told. How do you promote women such that by the time people are getting to a nomination exercise, you have more women who are aspirants? And if you have more women who are aspirants, how do you also internally promote such that you can also support the women to get elected?
And more here doesn't mean more than men. More here means an increased number than has previously been selected.
But the people who vote, this affirmative action is interesting. The people who vote mostly are women, more than men. But then as a woman is, we would say, binadamu ndio adui yake yeye mwenyewe. Because now, as a woman now, I would rather vote a man than vote a fellow woman. I think that's where we have the problem now.
Haven't you stretched it quite a bit? Speaking on behalf of women.
Nelson, asante sana. It's closing day, Nelson. Have a lovely weekend, long weekend.
You too.
But we'll be here tomorrow. Make sure you're tuned in.
Okay, sir. Thanks very much.
Asante sana. So this is a time and a weekend to binge on Showmax Season 1, Season 2. You get Crime and Justice, 760
Kenya shillings.
Bob. Bas. And then also go to Naivas.
You're going to be doing your shopping. It's the end of the month and you're going to, stack up on toothpaste. So do that. Colgate specifically at any Naivas. 10 shillings goes towards making sure that 30 more water wells are sunk around the country. 120,000 Kenyans will benefit when you buy toothpaste Colgate at Naivas.
Indeed. We'll be here tomorrow morning. Make sure you tuned in to us. We'll be telling you what's happening at Nyayo National Stadium at the funeral service of the late former president Mwai Kibaki will be taking place. We'll be here. We'll be having those conversations. Thank you very much for tuning in. Even on Monday. What holiday is it on Monday? It's the day after Labor Day. All right. So Labor Day is on Sunday. We'll be here on Monday. On Tuesday, Ramadan, we'll be here as you enjoy a long weekend. A Panjali will keep you company. Please do keep us company as well. Have a lovely day, folks. It's now 10 o'clock.
The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.